Good morning, everybody. It is now 9 o'clock. I would like to call our meeting to order. My name is Derek Lick. I'm your moderator for today. I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of how we're going to proceed. The first thing we will do, though, is let's stand up and say a pledge of allegiance. I understand the flag is that direction. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. You can be seated. Okay, folks, here's how we're going to proceed today. We have a series of warrant articles, 6 in total. The first 5 of our warrant articles are all budget related, and then the 6th is not. It's a policy related warrant article. The first of 5 of those warrant articles, which relate to budget items, we will go one by one through today. I'll call on a member of the school board to read the article, discuss it if they wish. Then I'll open it up to the audience to ask questions, have comments, etc. If anybody today wishes to amend any of the budget item warrant articles, that is allowed, provided it's seconded and we have a vote on it. However, if that passes, ultimately what will happen is it will be an additional item on our ballot when we go to our town meeting. So for example, if today somebody agrees to modify the first warrant article, the operating budget, the board's operating budget stays on the ballot, but then there would be a second alternative if something is amended today. That is true for the first 5 articles. For the 6th one, it's a little bit different because it is not a budget item. It is a policy item. That one we will also discuss today. Also, there's an opportunity to amend, et cetera, if we wish to do so. I'll have the school board members discuss that one. We'll have opportunities for discussion. However, because that is not a budget article, our charter says that what we say today stands, and that is a final decision of the district, and that will not go on our warrant for town meeting. So all budget items get voted on at our town meetings for all of our typical items, but the 6th one today, that will be decided today and today only. So with that, what I would like to do is get started. I will let school board members speak to each of the articles first, then I'll open it up to the public. If you are going to speak, we would love to have you, but to do that, you do need to come to the mic in the front of the room. You'll need to say your name and what town you are from, and that is for our note taker, and we keep minutes of the meeting, so we need that information. I'll be limiting folks to a minute or 2. I don't want to shut people up or limit their discussion, but I also want to keep the meeting moving. So we'll give you a minute or 2. If I think you're running a bit long or repetitive, I'll try and nod you along, but I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak if they wish to do so. Okay, so with that, what I'm going to do is turn to Article 1, and I understand our school board chair would like to speak, and I understand you may have some announcements or acknowledgments before you go to Article 1. Is that true, Allison? Yes?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. This is the most important meeting of the year that we have because we really want everyone in the district to be involved, and we know that everybody cannot come to board meetings every Thursday night. So I thank you all for taking time on a Saturday to be here. It's important work. And I also want to thank everyone at the SAU office because there's a lot of work that goes into getting today ready, a lot of work behind the scenes. So I just want to thank everybody involved in doing that and the supervisor of the checklist. We do have a board member retiring after 6 years, so I do want to thank Emma Bates from Warner for her 6 years. She's been an invaluable member to this board, and we will miss her greatly. With that, now I'm going to go to Article 1. Article 1, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the Municipal Budget Committee's recommended amount of $56,653,713 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for the school district officials and agents, and for the payment of the statutory obligations of the district. The school board recommends $56,653,713. This article does not include appropriations voted in other warrant articles. This warrant article asks the voters to raise and appropriate for the support of schools, the salaries of school district officials and agents, and for the statutory obligations of said district, and to authorize the application against said appropriation of such sums as are estimated to be received from the state sources, together with other income, the school board to certify to the selectmen of each of the towns of Bradford, New London, Newbury, Springfield, Sutton, Warner, and Wilmot, the amount to be raised by taxations by said towns. School board recommends 7-0. Municipal Budget Committee recommends 7-1. I will now read the school board explanation. The 2026-2027 operating budget proposed by the Kearsarge Regional School Board and the Municipal Budget Committee of $56,653,713 is an increase of approximately $408,615, or 0.73% from the 2025-26 budget. The areas of increase within the school board's operating budget are a result of a variety of factors that are explained in the following paragraphs. Wages and fringe. The requested budget for 2026-27 reflects a net decrease of 2.20 teacher full FTEs. Decreased were 3.6 FTE teachers during the 2025-26 school year and the 2026-27 school year. Added were 1.4 federal full-time employees. As a result, the wage line for employees requires an increase of approximately $233,858, or 57.23% of the proposed budget increase. The average increase in health benefit costs for 26-27 was a 7.8% increase from the current 25-26 health effective rates. Based on this increase, health benefits alone represent 57.47% of the total proposed budget increase, or $234,828. Included under other payroll benefits are dental, life, long-term disability, workers' compensation, insurances, taxes, workshops, and tax-sheltered annuities. The overall other payroll benefits increase represents 10.23% of the total budget increase, or $41,822. The New Hampshire State retirement increased 14.65%, or $59,863. Out of district. Our out-of-district costs for 25-26 school year are estimated to be a decrease of $60,999, or 14.93% of the budget decrease at this point in time. Each year, out-of-district special education costs are very fluid and are driven by a variety of factors. Those factors include the ability of our local staff to meet the needs of intensive behaviorally or medically challenged students, families who move into the district and the costs associated with delivering highly specialized services in environments outside of the district whose costs keep rising. We make every attempt to meet each child's needs in the least restrictive educational environment here at the local level. There are times, however, when the child's special needs exceed our local capacity to meet them. In addition, federal law also requires us to provide for those needs until the age of 22. Placements for out-of-district services can range from $80,000 per student to upwards of $300,000 per student per year, depending on the residential requirements. Other operating costs. Included in this area are textbooks, technology, contracted services, supplies, repairs, replacement equipment, capital improvements, new equipment, furniture, dues and fees, printing, telephone copiers, assessments, and others. These costs reflect a total budget decrease of approximately 2.89%, or $11,819. Other expenses. Transportation represents a 7.82%, or $31,965 budget decrease, and the utilities, bonds, lease payments, and property insurance budget decreased by approximately 10.38%, or $42,426. Food service represents a decrease in budget of 0.97%, or $3,947. Federal funds represent a decrease of 2.59%, or $10,600 of the decrease. Note, all federal dollars appropriated are offset by matching federal funds. The result is no effect to the local tax rate. Estimated cost per student. The estimated cost per student using the 2026-27 budget information is $29,614. Our cost per pupil represents expenditures less tuition and transportation costs. breakfast and lunch food service revenue is deducted from current expenditures before dividing by the ADM, which is the average daily membership. In attendance, the district utilized 2024-25 ADM for its calculation. Capital and debt service are not included. Actual cost per student will be calculated in August of 2027 for the 2026-2027 school year. And below there is a chart that you can see with all the different things that I just read about, all the different costs. So with that, we will open it up to anybody who has questions on the budget.
Thank you. So if anyone has any questions, we have today, as you can tell, the superintendent and members of the school board. On this side, we have municipal budget committee folks, so they're available to help answer any questions or hear your concerns. Anyone have anything they wish to speak about on Article 1? Yes, come on up.
Yes, my name is Mag Francis, and I'm from New London, and I'm one of those people who have had the opportunity to attend pretty much every board meeting and every MBC meeting for the last 9 months, and it's been a very interesting and illuminating process, and I would encourage folks, to try to participate by Zoom, because you can learn a lot about how our district works. One of the things, though, and this is not a question, this is really, my comments are going to be a concern. One of the concerns I have is that did not see very much conversation, if any at all, that addressed, the reality in front of us, which is that we have exploding budgets over the last 10 or 15 years. We've had declining enrollment, and we've had what I'm going to call declining or mediocre outcomes in terms of our educational quality. So I thought I would share some facts that I gathered using the New Hampshire Department of Education website, specifically their iPlatform, and again, it's a very, very, very valuable tool. Our administrative salaries at an SAU level, meaning our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, and our business administrator, are in the top 10 of all districts in the state. The other districts who share that top 10 ranking with us are the larger districts, which sort of makes sense because theoretically, breadth of responsibility, equates to higher compensation. Our school level administrators are also paid in the top 10 of all districts in the state, and they share that ranking with some familiar, Exeter, the Bedfords, all the usual suspects, And those schools have much better outcomes, than we have. Disappointingly, at least from my perspective, our teachers' salaries are just barely above average in terms of the rest of the state, I won't, and the gap between the administrative salaries and the teacher salaries appears to be growing, and I find that to be of concern. Obviously, we just talked about it, our cost per student averages are much higher than state averages, and truthfully, if you looked at cost per student at a town level, that picture is very, very, very ugly. Meaning if you looked at what Newbury and New London's cost per student is versus other towns or versus what Croydon is paying us to be a tuition community, if you will, within our school system, it's worth looking at. I think you get the picture. So we are top tier spendings relative to educating our children. And truthfully, I think we should feel good about that. I don't think that that's on its face, is bad, The problem, in my mind, is that our performance results are mediocre, We used to be ranked very high in the state. There was a time when Kearsarge High School was 5th. We are obviously we've fallen pretty far from that. But I'm not giving up because I think, we can get better. We can move ourselves up that ladder and stop this downward trend cycle that we're on. The one thing I'll say, is that I know that our curriculum director last year was a controversial new hire. Okay. However, I am very excited, okay, about that position and specifically about this person because she comes to the table with data and she doesn't try to mince words or doesn't try to camouflage it. It is what it is. So when she came and talked to the board about our school assessment results, she said, we are above average, and then she looked everybody in the eye and she said, just barely. Okay, and I think our kids deserve more than just barely.
Ms. Francis, I'm giving you 2 or 3 minutes. Can you please wrap it up? We have 3 or 4 other folks that want to speak right after.
Surely.
Thank you.
A former school board member told me that 10 or 15 years ago, we used to have benchmarks in place, meaning we used to have a set of 15 schools that we tracked and compared ourselves against every year. And it strikes me, okay, that that's a good practice. That doesn't mean, okay, we track ourselves against Hanover. Okay, it's 15 schools, okay, that are sort of within our range of achievement. So I guess I would put in a plug for better data analysis, better metrics, better district scorecard, more left brain focus, okay, on the quality of the education that I think, okay, our kids deserve.
Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Yes, come on up, sir. Just let us know your name and town, please.
James Gaffney from Warner. I'd like
Thank
to
you.
offer an amendment to the number that's being proposed. I'd like to amend that number to $54,600,000.
I'm sorry, give me the number one more time.
$54,600,000.
600,000. And would you mind explaining the rationale or the reason you'd like to do the amendment, sir?
I don't think we're required to provide any such reason, but there is year after year after year, there's been a large amount of money that has not been expended.
Thank you. We have an amendment on the floor. Do I have a second on the amendment, which would be to amend Article 1 to reduce the amount of the budget from $56,653,713 to $54,600,000? Do I have a second? Second. Can you let us know your name, sir? John Levitt. In what city? Warner. Thank you. So now we have an amendment on the floor that's been seconded, and we're going to open up for discussion the amendment to Article 1. Does anyone wish to speak to the amendment and whether they are for or against it? Yes, sir. Come on up to the microphone.
Hi, Steve Schultz from Newbury. You know, first of all, I want to commend both the school committee and the municipal budget committee for putting forward a 0.73 increase. I know that it takes a lot of hard work to basically flat fund with all of the costs that you're facing, and I think you did a great job. Personally, I am very, very, very against reducing the budget by a number that has no basis for where you're going to make those cuts. I think if you want to make amendments to a budget, you come forward with, I want to reduce this, that, and the other thing so everybody can see exactly what we're looking at. But when you're talking about a significant decrease of $2 million or something of that level without telling me what you want to decrease, how you're going to do it, how's it going to affect the students, how's it going to affect the staff, I don't think it's very well thought out, and I think you need to be more specific with your request.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else wish to speak to it? Yes, sir. Come on back up. And we know who you are, but for purpose of tape recording, let us know it again.
James Gaffney from Warner.
Thank you.
We do not have the ability by right to amend specific line items in the budget. We could do one of two things. You can change the overall number, or you can zero out a line item. And I'm not interested in zeroing out a line item in the budget, but those are our only two options. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the proposed amendment? Yes, sir. Come on up, please.
The previous speaker is correct
Oh,
that...
let us know your name and town,
Oh, I'm sorry,
please.
David Bates, Warner.
Thank
The
you.
previous speaker is correct that we do not have the ability to zero out any line items. this amendment was presented without a suggestion of what the $2 million decrease would have. I've watched many meetings over the years, and I've watched the work that goes into crafting the budget. I have repeatedly been unimpressed with the work that goes into flat, round figure cuts. There isn't any hint of an analysis or an understanding of how the school district works when you just stand up and propose a flat dollar amount.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah, come on.
Andrew Pennard, Bradford. Once again, I would like to echo those folks who are thanking those individuals who are involved in the specifics of building a budget. My concern is specifically with factors that are coming in from outside, things that we cannot control. We're in an era where a significant amount of financial pressure is being put on school districts by outside mechanisms that are diverting funding and causing significant impact on local property taxes at the state house level that is not controllable here by the school district. And it's really important that everyone here not only criticize the school district, and I say criticize in the classical sense in terms of looking at ways to make things better, but to also make sure that you look at the state house and understand that there are over $50 million that are going to students with no income cap that have no responsibility to respond to any metrics whatsoever and are taught in different ways, and ways to use that state funding to, for example, purchase $65,000 worth of ski lessons at Gunstock. I urge all of you, I appreciate all of you for being here and for being engaged in this process, but I would echo the previous speaker that without very specific content in an amendment to reduce the budget, I think that we need to once again rely on the people who spend the time doing the work. And when you look at the very small increase, comparatively speaking, in this budget, there's no reason to carve it out and make our job even more difficult than it already is being made. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? Yes, sir.
Hello, Ken Bartholomew from Warner. Every year that I was on the board, the Finance and Audit Committee would take a look at the budget from the prior year and the money that was to return to the district and why the reasons were for that money being returned to the district, towns. That was the only reason that the proposer of the amendment gave for a reduction amendment. You don't budget, we're budgeting now for a school year that starts in over a year from now. The costs are just uncertain of what's going to happen in those years, but you budget for what is needed by the district. For example, you budget for the number of special educators that you need. You budget for the specialties that you need. You budget for the number of buses in the transportation contract that you need. It may turn out that you can't get all those resources. We've seen, for the past 5 years, a shortage of buses and bus drivers, which means that there's a surplus that comes from the transportation contract. We're not able to hire as many paraprofessionals as we would think that are needed in the district. And it's just not responsible to budget for a number that is lower than what you need, especially on a $56 million budget, over a year, well over a year in advance of that budget starting. So I'm very much opposed to this amendment. It's not responsible. It means that if the district needed more money, it would need to come back to the voters and start the process again with a special meeting, and that's just not reasonable.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? If not, I'm going to call the question. And just so we're all, yes, sir. Come on up to the microphone. One last comment. Oh, I'm sorry. If somebody else wishes to come on over, come on up to the microphone.
I'd like to request a paper ballot.
Thank you, sir. Let's have one. We have one more comment coming up first.
Hi, I'm Jen Alfred Teester. I am a resident of Sutton. I will let the people who have the tactical and the procedural experience speak to the voting and things like that, but I'm going to sort of speak to, since we're bringing budgets forward with zero input on how to reduce it, I will speak to the return on investment of the individuals who we are speaking for in our community. So I know I've told this tale a million times, but I'm going to tell it again. Education and the people who come to our school districts every day, put the time in, they are investing in the future of this community. So you're talking about an sort of a random $2 million just right off the top. Well, that $2 million essentially is saying, I don't care what happens to this community. I don't care about the teachers who show up for our kids who struggle. I don't care about the extra support that kids might need in a period of really difficult time for them. I mean, I grew up with a single mom who had 3 kids before she was 18. The only buffer between me and crisis was my school district. And here I am now with 2 master's degrees, you know, I have 40 publications behind me about the importance of social supports and community, and that only occurred because of people like you, people like the, you know, teachers showing up to say, you know, I know your circumstances don't look good now, but just hang on, giving me the skills to be able to, you know, critically think about inputs that matter in the future. And so I'm just putting a face to the work that you do, because if it weren't for the teachers who showed up for me when I was young, if it weren't for the counselors who helped me learn how to cope with my emotions, I couldn't be the person I am today investing in the community. So please, please, please do not forget the humanity behind the children and the teachers and the support staff give to this work, because this is what you are investing in. Me, people like me, people who show up on a Saturday morning, even though I gave blood yesterday and feel terrible, but I'm here to say this again, like, there are real people being impacted by this. And so thank you for your work, and don't give up. Thank you all for showing up here today, even the critics, so I can then say, be reasonable. So I'm in support of the budget because I know how much work that goes into it, but I just wanted to put a human face to this and say thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Folks, the proponent of the amendment has, yes, sir, did you want to speak? Come on up. While you're coming up, I want to comment on the request for a secret ballot. The proponent of the amendment has requested a secret ballot. That is permissible, but there must be 5 folks that request a secret ballot. It's formally supposed to be in writing, but I will accept if 5 folks wish to have it by secret ballot. If they come up here, I'll put a tablet down and you can write your 5 names down. It takes a 5 names in writing to request a secret ballot to proceed in that fashion. So now's your chance if you wish to do that. In the meantime, sir, what's your name and town, please?
John Levitt, Warner.
Thank you.
First of all, the proposed amendment shows a concern for the community as a whole, not just the school district. So to throw money, the first speaker alluded to the expanding cost of school while the enrollment declines. That, to me, is ridiculous. Not the statement, but the fact that it's happening. Because the performance has gone down. So we're throwing more money, and the performance has gone down. And to teach our kids to strive to be average is ridiculous. They should be encouraged to strive for excellence. And being an average or just barely above average school district is not a goal worth expounding on. So I would urge that this amendment be approved to show that we should be concerned about the whole community and not just the handful of people who are here today. Many people in the community are appalled at the cost of the schools. And I'll tell you one thing, walking into this building, my kids went to a regional school district in Massachusetts, and their high school did not have a gymnasium anywhere near this size. So this is a perfect example of money that is being spent unnecessarily, in my view. Thank you.
Appreciate the comments. Thank you. Mr. Gaffney, I'm going to give you one last chance, and then we're going to call the question.
Well, you asked for people.
I have something to say.
Yes.
5 people. How would you like to do that?
If 5 people want to come up, you can sign this tablet right here, and we'll have a secret ballot.
Can I speak to this as a school board member?
You can, yes, but give me 1 second. So if we're going to have folks that are going to sign, I'd like to make sure we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we have a 5th?
I'm not signing.
All right, we got, looks like we're going to have enough for secret ballot. We'll allow for a couple more comments if folks wish to do so before we do that. Then I'll explain the process for that. And for the folks who may be listening in the library, my supervisors at the checklist, we will be needing you for the secret ballot. So please send, we need 3 of you at least. Oh, they're in the room. Thank you. All right, looks like we're going to have at least 5 voters, so we will do a secret ballot. What I'll do is allow additional comments as we proceed, and then we'll call the question. We have enough folks that have spoken. So folks at the table wish to speak? Go ahead. Yes.
First of all, thank you all for your input and for your concern with not only the quality of education, but the taxpayer burden.
And I know you're up here with a name tag, but tell us.
Kristen Schultz Newberry,
Thank you.
Vice Chair of the Board. So we have come in at as close to a flat-funded budget as we could. And this proposed amendment would actually, if we were looking at just last year's budget, reduce last year's budget by 2.83%. And my point here is that we were very responsive and prudent in our budgeting to respond to the concern of property taxes while maintaining the quality of education that we strive for. Secondly, and I know that this is a hot topic, we are struggling with getting the fair share of our budget from the state, and so that puts it, I think it's over 60% onto the taxpayer. We are looking for ways, how much, 70% onto your local taxes, and we are looking for ways to be responsive, but we have statutory requirements that we must budget for, and to reduce the budget by a flat number will harm our ability to provide those services that we are legally required to provide. So at the end of a fiscal year, when we do have that money left over, it is not because we were budgeting in a way that was unresponsive and hyperbolic. We were budgeting in a way to meet the anticipated needs that are required by law. Thank you.
Thank you. And do you wish to speak, sir? Come on up.
Bill Knopf, Sutton. I just want to address the elephant in the room. When you're talking about kids' performance and you're talking about their education, you're using metrics in a state that are not aligned with state goals. First off, a standardized test is not competency-based learning. So you're talking apples and tangerines. They're not the same. If you want to talk about how a kid is learning, you have to talk about the whole kid as a general. We do not, in our system, teach our kids to take a standardized test, which is where you're getting your data from. The SAT, which is one of the metrics that we are using, or you're using, to compare our kids to other kids, is a standardized test. The math itself is Algebra 2, where half of our kids might not get there. Okay? The English is one of our better suits because English is a more generic and it is being added on as you go through your life as a student. So when I listen to people say that our kids are mediocre, I haven't seen you in my classroom. I haven't seen you come in and see what my kids are doing. We moved here from Maryland, okay? Maryland, if you want to become a state like Maryland and you want to chase the rabbit
of the standardized test, then you need to change the education to actually match that standardized testing. Maryland, you have to pass 5 tests to graduate. Mass, the gentleman talked about how he came from Mass. Same thing, you got to pass those state tests. Our kids are not required to pass those tests. In fact, our kids can actually voucher out of that. They don't even have to take the test. So if you really want to see what the kids are learning, come to the schools. We moved here because of the educational system. You might think it's failing, you might think it's bad. My kid is thriving. My kid is thriving in a school that you kind of want to shut down because it needs too much money. Okay? Yet my daughter is with her kids, and they are learning things way beyond the level that I learned, and I have, like the other speaker, I have 3 master's degrees. Okay? I went through a standardized testing. The standardized testing didn't challenge me. It was a checkbox that I had to get to college. So if you really want to see what our kids are doing, come see the output they're doing. Come see the ELOs that they're doing. Come see that we've got kids in 9th and 10th grade getting their LNAs and becoming licensed nurses. Come see how our kids are becoming engineers. Come see how our kids are going to upper level schools around the world with a mediocre assistant. So please, the $2.4 million pay cut, like she just said, you're not cutting this year, you're cutting last year and then some. They're raising $400,000, okay? I'm sorry, yes, my taxes went up, but my taxes are going up for kids, okay? The State Department doesn't want to put in what they're supposed to. That's not on us, but it's also on us to take care of our kids. And our kids need it, our kids deserve it, and please don't make this cut. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Come up.
It should go on.
You first, sir, and then we'll have you come up next. Thank you. Yep.
James McKenna, New London. I just wanted to point out just a couple things. Articles 3, 4, and 5 all come from surplus funds at the end of the year. So if there's residual funds left over from the budget, that's what funds our maintenance, our roof, and our special education fund. That's all or nothing. Those totals this year, as of right now, are $800,000. If there's not surplus of $800,000, we do not get those funds for those specific things. In addition to that, this fall, we had a special assessment for healthcare, just over $1 million. We were able to utilize surplus funds from last year to pay for that and not have to have a special meeting and raise $1 million this year. So those surplus funds, while they are there, they do get used to better the schools and the community and our teachers in the future. I just wanted to point that out.
Excellent.
Thank you for your comment. Come on up, sir. Again, just name and town first.
Hi, Matt Essenwein from Warner. I love saving money. I am one of those frugal types who uses the coupons. I'll be driving down to 5 Acres in Bradford, and I get 3 miles in. I forget my coupon. I turn around, I go back and get the $10 off, and then I continue on. I use the app for Dunkin' Donuts because I get my points. I love saving money is my favorite. But that being said, looking at the budget, looking and understanding the budget, Warner has been a part of my life almost my entire life. I grew up in Ware, but we would come up to Highlawn and get equipment for our horses and stuff and go to the Fall Foliage Festival. So this area has really been part of my life forever, even though I just moved here about 20 years ago. So when I was in Ware, I was on the Finance Committee, and we would look at the budgets, and we would understand, we would pay attention to where things were being spent, how things are being spent, where the funds are coming from. And we have to understand, all of us have to understand that there are a whole lot of moving parts to the budget. It's not just money in, money out. We're looking at the paper we have here. We have to understand state funding, as someone mentioned. The state is not funding education the way they're supposed to be, because every 2 years we get new legislators in and they kick the can down the road, and they've been doing this for decades, literally. So if you want to talk about our budget today and where some of the money should be coming from, talk to your state representatives and your state senators. We're looking at what is it, 50-something%, more than 50% of the budget increase comes from healthcare costs, guess what? You can talk to your representatives in Congress and your senators about that. We have per pupil cost, which is about, what, $29,000, which is significantly above the state average. I don't know why. Maybe there's a good reason, maybe there's not, but that is something worth considering, and that's something we can discuss with the school board. There's a whole lot of groups that are interacting here that are having an impact on our budget. And so I love saving money, you know, as I said. Saving money is great, but to just say, well, we're gonna make this school better by wiping out $2 million, I have no idea where. I don't know where we're overspending. I don't know where we're underspending. I have no idea what we should do, but $2 million sounds like a great random number. Let's just wipe out $2 million. That is foolhardy at best and dangerous at worst, and it will not result in the results that you are anticipating.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
This is a brief point of order question regarding the 5 individuals to sign up for a ballot vote. Yes. I am concerned that that statute exists when we have 200 to 300 people in the room that we don't have to have a voice vote opportunity to stop that process from happening. This is again a state statute that is making 5 people have the ability to make us all wait an extra hour to vote for this process. So could you educate us on how we can adjust that in the future so we don't have to rely on 5 people to bog down our process?
Contact your state legislature to change the statute. And I'll double check with council, as you've seen, I did walk over her to double check that. I'm not sure if we have to keep it open an hour. I'll double check that. I know we do when it comes to bond articles to raise some financing. I'll double check that. But in any event, we do immediately secret ballot. Yes, Mr. Moses.
Rebecca Corson, Warner. I'd like to move the question.
Thank you. We've had a motion to move the question. I'm going to entertain that motion. Do I have a second? Thank you. We've got a second. So here's how we're going to proceed, folks, with a secret ballot. In order to vote in a secret ballot, you need to have checked in as a voter, and you need to have received one of these packets of paper. What we're going to do, we're going to use to keep it simple, we're going to use the last sheet, which is the orange. Is that orange? We'll call it orange, the last sheet on the back. You will see that that piece of paper has a yes and a no. Please don't put yes and no in the ballot box. You will only cancel on your vote. You're going to cut it, split it in half, rip it in half, and you're going to put in one of our ballot boxes either yes or no. I'll explain this is what we're doing in just a moment. We have 3 ballot boxes up front. We have a supervisor checklist that will man each of the ballot boxes. They'll monitor the folks to put them in. For the moment, I'm going to leave this open until I see that everyone's had an opportunity to vote. I'll double check with council if we have to keep it open now or not. Hopefully not. Once I see that everybody has had an opportunity to cast their ballot, I'm then going to ask the supervisors the checklist to bring them all to the middle table and to take the count. Then they're going to report the count to me, and I'll report it to you. So we will start the process by using the orange piece of paper, yes or no. Just to understand the state of it, the motion on the table, what you were voting on is the following. You would amend Article 1 to reduce the budget proposed from $56,653,713 to $54,600,000. And the way our charter works, if that passes, that second ballot, that second amount gets put onto our ballot come March at our town meeting as an alternative to the $56,653,713. That's the way the process works. Yes, sir. Yes, come on over. Sure. Go ahead.
Tom Forster, London. 2 questions. One is this subject to reconsideration, whatever you vote on here? Because that can be yes.
It would be subject to reconsideration, yes.
And you'll explain to us later how that works?
Yes, once we finish the ballot, I'll explain that process. Thank you for raising it.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing, if you oppose the reduction, you want to vote no?
Yes, you are voting yes for a reduction or no against a reduction. So the question is, do you want $54,600,000 to be the budget? Yes if you do, no if you don't.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, folks, all the supervisors, I can't see around the board, we have one at the third box.
Yep, well said.
All right, let's start validating the process, please. All right, folks, a quick update. We do not have to hold the ballots open for 1 hour. So as soon as we are done counting, we'll move on to the next one. All right, folks, let's get back at it. Please take your seats.
Yeah, you just bring it down.
I am now declaring the polls closed on our first count.
We're going to continue the meeting. Here's how we're going to proceed. We're going to let the supervisors of the checklist do the count of the ballots. The polls are closed with respect to Article 1. While they are counting the ballots, they'll report them to me. I would like us to move on to Article 2. A gentleman was kind enough to raise the question about a motion for reconsideration. Yes, such motions are permitted at any time in the meeting. However, there is an opportunity, if you wish, to do a motion to restrict reconsideration on the vote that we just had. If someone makes that motion, it is seconded, and we vote in favor of that. We will not be permitted to reconsider that vote that we just had at today's meeting. And if someone tries to reconsider it later in the meeting, we would actually have to have a second special meeting 7 to 10 days from now. It is essentially an effort to try and preclude folks at the very end of a meeting when there may be very few people here to try and reconsider a vote that was taken early in the meeting when there was large attendance. So with that, I'll ask if anyone wants to wishes to make a motion to restrict reconsideration on that vote. Do I hear? I see yes. Do I have a second? Any discussion? Otherwise, I'm just going to call a vote. Yes, sir. Mr. Cappy.
Point of order, normally you'd wait until you get the results before you restrict reconsideration.
I don't think the determination of the vote doesn't matter with respect to the request to restrict reconsideration. So I've had a motion and a second. I want to take a vote. All in favor of restricting reconsideration on the vote we just had, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are not able to reconsider the vote we just had at today's meeting. Yes, Bob, you have a point.
Bob Wright, town of Sutton, graduate in 1958 in New London High School. As a point of order, I would like to bring up that we voted on the amendment, but we are still on the subject of Article 1, are we not?
Well, that is true to a point, except that there's no vote on Article 1 per se. It's only if it is amended. So we can have further discussion if people want to have a further discussion about the budget.
I only wish to raise a couple of questions for procedural, not substance. And that
If it's respect to Article 1, I'll allow it. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you. It says here, an increase of approximately $408,615 or 0.73%. Now that's pretty exact to me, and so I don't quite understand the word approximate. The other thing I must confess, when we're talking about wages and fringes, we're talking about that, let's see, we have workers' compensation insurance, and we have, let's see, taxes. With all due respect, those are required by law. The benefits that are offered on through the board and the budget committee as recommended and then voted on by us. I'm a little confused as why they would be tucked in there. The reason I ask this is, first of all, I ain't the first kid in the room to get the concept. And when you read this, this is probably as close to a legal document as anything I can find. So I would ask for clarification that I might feel comfortable with the procedures of how you arrived at these, at the words, and why you selected certain things as opposed to being benefits, because they're not, with all due respect. And those are questions. not opinions.
Thank you, thank you. I don't know if anybody wants to speak with just how the warrant article is put together. Go ahead.
Can you clarify the question you're asking, how the explanation was written up?
Yes, if we could go down to school board explanation, and then an increase of approximately $408,615 or 0.73%. That's pretty exact to me. That on its face, that's exact, and I don't understand why the word approximately was, unless it was required by legals. And if that's a legal requirement, that's fine, but it's not approximate.
We'll have counsel answer your question as to the legality of it.
And the other thing is, in the area of benefits, workman's compensation is a requirement. Taxes are a requirement. I don't think anybody in their right mind would talk about taxes as being a benefit.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate the comments. As far as approximately, our council just informed us that all of these numbers are approximate, and it's just being clear on that point. You're right. They're very detailed and precise. Maybe not to the tenths. Maybe that's why it's tenths of a percent. All right. With that, let's move on to Article 2. And I want to turn to Patrick McGowan, I believe, is speaking to Article 2. Patrick, are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
Patrick McGowan, the town of Warner. I'll be reading Article 2 and the school board explanation. Article 2, to see if the school district will vote to approve the cost item included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Kearsarge Regional School Board and the Para-Educators Association of Kearsarge, also known as PEAK, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits. In year 2026 to 2027, $166,972 of an estimated increase. 2027 to 2028, $202,703 of an estimated increase. And then in 2028 to 2029, an estimated increase of $194,665. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $166,972 for the 2026 to 2027 fiscal year. Such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staff levels. The school board recommends this 6-0. The Municipal Budget Committee recommends it 8-0. Now, in terms of the school board explanation, the Kearsarge Regional School Board and the Para-Educators Association at Kearsarge have reached a 3-year contractual agreement for the years 2026 to 2029. The agreement includes competitive salary increases and benefits for para-educators and specialists under the Collective Bargaining Agreement, or CBA. Key changes include improved salary ranges to attract new staff, a change in the district's contribution to health insurance premiums, enhancements to benefits to retain current staff, an incentive track for general special education and intensive needs paraeducators.
Thank you, Patrick. Now we're opening it up for discussion. Anyone have any questions or comments with respect to Article 2? Now is your chance. All right. Yes, go ahead.
This is a question. Do we have a process in place where we look at our CBA and compare our district to other districts in the state so that we know whether or not our salary schedule is competitive at the level that we want it to be competitive at?
Yes, we, not only does the school district do a comparative analysis, but the unions also do a comparative analysis, and these analyses are part of the contract negotiations. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, if no one else wishes to speak to Article 2, I'm going to close the discussion on Article 2. All right, I have received the count for our ballot. We're going to look back to Article 1. Article 1, the question that we voted on was whether or not to have a second article alternative to the school budget of $54,600,000. The yeses were 18, the noes were 198. So the amendment did not pass, and there will not be that second listing on the warrant for our March town meetings. Now let's go to Article 3. Article 3, who is speaking to Article 3? I need to pull out my notes.
I am.
All right, go for it.
James McKenna, New London. See if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to $500,000 to be placed in the school buildings maintenance expendable trust fund for the purpose of repair, unanticipated utility costs, and maintaining the school buildings and equipment, with such amount to be funded from unassigned fund balance, surplus funds, remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2026. The school board recommends this 6-0, and the municipal budget committee recommends this 8-0. In 2009, the voters established an expendable trust fund for the purpose of repairs, unanticipated utility costs, and maintaining school buildings and equipment. If approved, this article will set aside up to $500,000 towards that purpose from operating surplus funds remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2026. The balance of the fund as of July 2025 is approximately $448,616. The target amount for this fund is set at $1 million.
Thank you, James. Opening the floor. Anybody have any questions or comments with respect to Article 3? Going once, going twice. Thank you, James. We'll now turn to Article 4, and with that one, we'll turn to David Keith for Article 4.
Thank you. David Keith from New London. Article 4, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to $100,000 to be placed in the Capital Reserve Roof Fund for the purpose of replacement or major repairs to roofs in the district, with such amounts to be funded from unassigned fund balance, surplus funds, remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2026. The school board recommends 7-0. The municipal budget committee recommends 8-0. In 2000, the voters established a capital reserve fund for the purpose of reconstructing or adding roofs to existing schools of the district. If approved, this article will set aside up to $100,000 towards that purpose from operating surplus funds remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2026. The balance of the funds as of July 2025 is approximately $1,104,212. The target amount is $4 million.
Thank you, David. All right. Anyone have any questions or comments with respect to Article 4? Yes, come on up, please. Oh, and I'm sorry, man, who'll be next? Let us know your name and town, please. Dan.
Dan Wolf from the town of Newbury. I was one that put this article forward back in 2000. It has never been adequately funded. We had a surplus last year of, correct me, Mr. LaBeouf, if I'm wrong, but in excess of $4 million. Some of that was used for health care that was unanticipated, but we did fund all of our capital reserves. We only have less than, or just about 25% of what the target is on this thing. We know we're going to have to replace the roofs. So I would like to amend this article to say, change the $100,000, which is a miserly amount for a roofer, hardly put the roofer up on top to start work, and change that to $2 million if there is a surplus. So I move to amend Article 4, changing the amount to $2 million. And remember, this is coming out of surplus.
Thank you. Do I have a second on the motion to amend Article 4 to change the amount requested from $100,000 to $2 million?
Second.
All right, I got to get a name. Let's go over to, yes, ma'am, what's your name? Okay, thank you very much. With that, we're going to open it for discussion.
Sorry, Steve Schultz, Newbury. I have a clarifying question. Should it say up to $2 million? And I'm wondering if it says $2 million and there's not $2 million in the fund, then we get nothing, which would be the opposite, I think, of his intent.
That's a fair question, and for that, I'm going to turn to Mr. Wolf, who made the amendment. Are you agreeable with that or no?
Okay, so up to 2 million.
Correct. It's just so I'm clear, what's on the table, the motion that has been made is for the surplus to be provided of, it's up to $2 million of the surplus. That's the motion on the table.
So with that change and with that understanding, I think this really makes sense. I know $2 million is a lot of money, but we need to replace our roofs, and we're going to have to pay for that either through warrant articles that are going to come, and I think this is probably just good stewardship that's going to allow us to, if we have the money, put it right into that fund so we can reduce future warrant requirements on the community.
Thank you. Sir, come on up.
What is the current...
Give us your name again.
James Gaffney. What is the current unexpended fund balance?
Thank you.
It's 3.9.
Well,
3.9.
It wouldn't be just this year's. It would be in totality, what is the fund balance?
Of what?
The unexpended fund balance.
Of what? Of the roof
No.
fund?
Where the money is coming from.
The budget, so this is...
There funds that were budgeted for, but were not expended.
3.9 million.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the amendment to Article 2 to change it from up to...
You want me to clarify? Can I just clarify a few things?
Oh, yeah. All right. Folks at the table want to speak? Let's go for it.
Just for clarification, the fund balance at the end of the year was $3.9 million. $1 million of that 3.9 was voted to pay for the assessment. So $2.9 million was returned to the voters. Just so that we're clear on that. There was $3.9 million had to be spent for the health trust assessment that we got, you read the paper. But what was returned to the voters was $2.9 million. Just so that way you have factual information.
Thank you. And yes, sir.
James McKenna, New London. When these are funded at the end of the year with surplus funds, they're funded in the order that they're on the ballot. So this would be the second fund. So the first one, if we have an excess fund of $500,000, that would be funded. That's why it says up to. The second one has been amended to up to $2 million. That would fund that. And then the third one that we'll talk about in a second, in just a minute, is the special education, but that would become last. So they are funded in order with the surplus funds at the end of the year.
Thank you for that clarification. That's helpful. Yes, sir.
James Gaffney again. I want to be precise. We were just told that the fund balance was $3.9 million, and that $2.9 million of that was returned to voters. If that was the case, then there wouldn't be that $2.9 million as part of the $3.9 million.
It would be
it's either there or it's not.
It would be expended. It would be expended prior to the return.
There's 2.9 available to be returned.
That was last year's surplus.
At the end of each year, whatever the surplus is considered the surplus balance. It is zeroed out. So it is either put into these reserve funds or it is returned to the voters. It is not kept for the following year. It is not a fund that you could spend. It has to be zeroed out as of the end of the fiscal year.
But someone said that earlier, they mentioned that there was $1 million of what was budgeted for that was not included in the budget in terms of specific line items that the school decided to spend on.
We have permission as a school board to vote to spend some of that money if we need to.
I understand that, but my point is that you guys should do a better job. If you're spending $1 million on something that was not deliberated on in any way, meaningful way, and included in the budget as a line item, that just doesn't seem to be really responsible to me.
It was a state requirement. This wasn't just a random thing.
So if it was a state requirement, why wasn't it included in the budget?
Because we didn't have it at budget time.
So,
thank you.
Sir, I might go. So, the healthcare or insurance company hit all of its member schools with an assessment, meaning that their reserves were lower than they needed to be. So it was anywhere from there were a number of districts that got hit with over $1 million assessment. We were just over $1 million that we had to pay. If we didn't pay that, because they basically did the spread out, then we would have lost health insurance for all of our employees. So that's where that $1 million was. Because of the nature of it, the state allowed us to take that $1 million out of our surplus funds to pay for that, and the board voted. So the starting point was, had we not had that assessment, we would have returned $3.9 million to the voters. But because of this fund that we had to pay to maintain any health insurance, that's why the $1 million came off of it. So it wasn't a non-budgeted item. It was a surprise expense that the district had to make a choice on whether we were going to have health insurance or not.
So DRA requires you guys, just like a town, to keep a certain fund balance, as it's typically a percentage of the budget, of what's budgeted. And so all of that money is not returned to voters. It sits in the balance.
We held, so with that, by law, we can withhold up to 5%. Typically, the district has voted to hold 2.5% of that. This last year, the board voted to increase that to 3%. So it's about $1 million in that account, in that holdback. One of the thoughts from districts that have done that was that was what they were planning on trying to use some of those monies, other districts to pay for those assessments. But for us to expend that money, we have to get permission from the Commissioner of Education to do that. So it's not like it sits in a savings account that we can just quickly grab from. There's a huge procedural amount for that. But right now, it's a little over $1 million on that withhold. And if that doesn't get used, then that money goes back.
Well, Mr. Gaffney.
Explain goes back, please.
Mr. Gaffney.
What is the mechanism for that going back?
Mr. Gaffney, I would like someone else to have an opportunity. There are others who are
My
waiting.
question wasn't answered in totality.
Mr. Gaffney, you've had plenty of time. If others, after others have asked their questions, I'll allow you to come back up with additional ones. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Let me try, my name is Mag Francis, I'm from New London. Let me try to ask that question. There are multiple versions of surplus, okay, in our budget, okay? We did write a check for $1 million. We didn't break a sweat. We had that surplus in our budget to pay for the healthcare assessment. In addition, we have a surplus of $2.9 million, okay, that we are returning to the towns. In addition, we made a decision to retain an unallocated fund balance, which does not get returned to the towns. That just hangs out forever. We made a decision to increase that from 2.5% to 3% this year because we had the surplus to be able to do that. And I hope that answers your question.
The question really pertains to how those funds are actually returned.
All right. We'll let next person come up. Yes, sir. Let us know your name again.
David Bates Warner. I'm inclined to take the lead of Dan and Bibi just in respect for their tenure of service. My only question is, because the articles are funded in the order in which they're written, will increasing the roof number potentially mean that no funds are left for the special education? Yes. All right. Thank you.
Sir.
I'm Kristen Pelletier-Ruggiero. I'm from New London. Obviously, no one wants to spend more than we need, but this is how we don't end up in situations like Claremont and Merrimack Valley and Concord. You know, all of these huge school districts around us are now floundering, looking for millions and millions of dollars. That's just a statement. My question is, I have concern with Article 5 being after Article 4. I think we need to get roofs on these buildings. We've been discussing it for years. But I also, as a special education mom and a child with special needs, is there a way to amend or motion that Article 5 be moved ahead of 4 so that special ed gets funded, and then what is ever left over as true surplus then goes into the roof fund?
Thanks for the question. I'm looking over at our council who are putting on the spot. Let's see if we can get an answer.
Can we motion to change the order?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Yes.
so then I do that. I motion to change Article 5 to ahead of Article 4.
Fair enough. Thank you. Do I have a second? We have a whole bunch of them. I need one name. Take yours. Meg Francis, New London. So just so everybody's understanding what we are doing, the motion on the table is to take Article 4, move it to... Yes. We are correct. That's a fair comment. Let me chat with council about how we best do this. I understand the intent, and I think we can get there. The question is whether we do it now or whether we vote on the amendment first and then do it. So let me chat with council. Bear with me 1 second. So the advice of council is that we can do it either way we wish, but I appreciate your thought, and I think what I would like to do, provided everyone is fine with it, is I want to have a vote on Article 4's amendment. Then when we get to Article 5, I would like to have someone, I'd entertain a motion from you to move to approve Article 5, but move it up in sequence so that it is expended before we get to the roof amount. Does that make sense, ma'am? And does everybody else understand? Yes, Dan? And just so everyone understands where we are, the question is, if we are to increase the roof budget up to the $2 million, the sequence would be, we would first, if we have surplus, it would first go to what's in Article 3. Then, as of now, it would go to the $2 million in Article 4, and then if there's money left over, it would go to the surplus, would go to Article 5. And the question is whether we can reprioritize so that the order would be the first Article 3, then we would go to the special education fund, which would get funded with the surplus next, and then last would be the roof budget up to $2 million. Yes, Dan?
I guess that would work, but what I'm willing to do is withdraw my amendment and move Article 5 instead of in front of Article 4. Withdraw it, make it clean, and then put Article 5 next. In other words, I'm saying I'm withdrawing the motion to amend and moving special order of Article 5.
Yeah, Dan, I think we still have to vote on it. I think, given that it's been voted and seconded, I appreciate your comment, though. I know where we're trying to go. So the issue on the table as of now is, do we wish to amend Article 4 to change the amount at issue from up to $100,000 being placed in the capital reserve roof fund to $2 million? Do I have further comment or questions on that amendment? Yes, Bob.
Bob Wright, Town of Sutton. Just for clarification, does this mean when this is voted in March, are there going to be two items, one for 100,000 and one for 2 million?
Yes, thanks for the clarification. As for all budget items, including capital reserve funds, if we vote in favor of this change, when you show up at Town Hall in March and vote and look at the ballot, you will see two items for this article. One in the amount of $100,000 by our charter that must appear on the ballot, and one in the form of up to $2 million, which is the amendment Mr. Wolf has put forward. Thank you for the question. Yes, Jen?
Jen Albertister, Sutton. I don't want to vote on Article 4 until I know that Article 5 is secure in the position before Article 4. So how do we...
With that, what I would do is entertain a motion to table Article 4 and the amendment vote until we have voted on Article 5.
Okay, I would like to table Article 4
Until
Article 5 has been voted on.
Fair enough. I have a second. Do we need any further discussion? The goal that she is putting forward, which I think is your intent, is to determine whether or not we have funds in the trust
Correct.
fund for the special education
Correct.
fund, and if so, then we would vote on Article 4. Fair?
Thank you, Derek. I feel like you were watching a toddler trying to eat food, and you're like, Mom.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
So, any further discussion? Oh, yes, come on, sir. I'm being told it's a non-debatable motion now that it has been seconded.
Pierre DeBrew, order. Just wanted to make a couple comments. What we demonstrated here today is clearly we had a 3.9 excess last year's budget, right? A little background, I've been in corporate finance my whole life, degree of finance from Northeastern, MBA from Pepperdine. I've been doing this for a long time. That's not a very good budget outcome. That's why I'm here today. And I think we can all agree we need some a little better clarity on our budget. 7% variance is large. Another fact today is we all voted that it was apparently arbitrary to make a $2 million cut. That vote was clear. I think it's also arbitrary to make a $2 million increase to the capital reserve with no detail whatsoever. We have no report on the condition of roofs or how else this will be spent. Well, I'm referring to the article. Okay, well, first.
Pierre, I appreciate your comment. I'm going to ask you to hold it for a moment because I do want to get to the issue as to tabling this for a moment. Okay? So what I'd like to do is call the question on the following motion, whether or not we table discussion on Article 4 until a vote on Article 5. Are we ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Now what I'm doing is turning our attention to Article 5, and what I would like to do is have our board member read Article 5. Here, if you wish to speak generally on surpluses in response, you can do it then. Is it okay?
Okay. Again, I would just I'd ask the budget committee to sharpen the pencils a little bit so we can come with some tighter numbers and we don't have such large variances year to year. And we have more time in advance to review. That's all. Thank you.
With that, I want to turn to, I think Nancy's going to speak, yes, to Article 5. So we have skipped Article 4 for now in the amendment. We'll come back to that. Now we are on Article 5.
Nancy Glenn from Sutton. Article 5 is to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to $200,000 to be placed in the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund established in 2008 within the provisions of RSA 198:20-C for the purpose of emergency funding of unforeseen special education costs incurred by the district, with such amount to be funded from unassigned fund balance, also known as surplus funds, remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2026. The school board recommends this 7-0. The municipal budget committee recommends this 8-0. Now the school board explanation. In 2008, the voters established an expendable trust fund for the purpose of providing funds for unforeseen emergency circumstances in special education that may arise in a school year after the budget has been adopted. If approved, this article will add up to $200,000 to that fund from operating surplus remaining on hand as of June 30th, 2026. The balance of the fund as of July 31st, 2025 is approximately $448,616. The target amount to be raised is $625,000.
Thank you, Nancy. With that, I'm going to turn to our friend here, and I would entertain a motion, if you wish to make it, that Article 5 be renumbered Article 4 and placed on the ballot ahead of the current Article 4.
Kristen Pelletier-Ruggiero from New London. It was actually Luke Scorman. Thank you. He let me know. My motion is to move this all the way to Article 2 so that our students are getting their funding first, our buildings come second.
Just to be clear, I think what you mean is Article 3. It'll be the first
Yes,
one
sorry.
on the surplus. So,
The first one out of the surplus, yes. But our students first, buildings second.
thank you. So just so everyone's clear, the question on the table is whether to renumber the articles. And the reason we're doing this, it determines in what order any surplus is expended. And the motion on the table is to move Article 5 up the list to now be Article number 3, and the others to be moving down equivalent. That's the question. Do I have a second on that motion? Yes, give me your name, sir. Matt Henson-Wine, thank you. Any discussion on that?
Scott Ward, Newbury. We're moving money around here and nobody really gets what's going on behind the scenes here. We have a freight train coming with roofs. It's well over 7 to 15 million. We're still working on getting the real numbers. But that's going to show up next year, people. So if we don't put money away, stand by for your property tax bill to go crazy. But this is coming. We've got roof issues, we got furnace issues, we got stuff that's been allowed to fester for a long, long time. And it's gonna be a frightening number when it gets done. So putting some money away now is prudent.
Thank you. Yes, sir, come on up, then I'll get to you, ma'am.
Totally agree. Well, the only reason I want to...
Just give us your name
Oh,
again.
Matt Essenwein, I'm sorry, from Warner. Totally agree. You have to pay attention to the maintenance, and we do have serious issues we have to address. The only reason why I felt I'm agreeable with moving this article up is because, again, we have all these expenses that we're required by the state and federal government that we have to meet. This is one of them, taking care of the special education needs, that we have to do it. Not like, of course I would want to do it even if I wasn't required, but we are required. It is something we have to do. This is just a safeguard to make sure that we fulfill the obligations that have been given to us. It's not a matter of dismissing all those maintenance issues that we do have to deal with, but this is another one of those issues that we have to pay for. We have to fulfill these duties. We're just making sure that it gets done, that's all.
Thank you. Maybe had a question or a comment?
Nancy, go ahead, Warner. It's just a language question. Each of these say up to, and I get that if there wasn't enough surplus, you couldn't. So that's one of the reasons. But
correct.
Does it mean there's a choice so that you could choose if you only had X number of dollars and you wanted to fund a little bit from each one?
I see your point. What we are being told is no. So it had to be filled in sequence. So the first one would have to be up to 200 if it's moved up. It's fully funded, and then the next one, then the next one. So
One of those legal phrases that doesn't really mean what it sounds like.
thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Oh gosh, I'm shorter than I thought.
Tilt it down, tilt it down.
Nicole Wakeman, Sutton. I just have a question of clarification. In looking at the balances that are currently in those funds, Article 3 has a current balance of $448,616, and Article 5 also has $448,616. That's an interesting coincidence.
Ask me to double check the numbers, I guess?
Yeah, that would be great, only because clearly, from my standpoint, and I have a lot of kids, for anybody that knows me, and when you're looking at the priority of order, one thing that really should be taken into consideration is what is the current balance in those funds in comparison to what the needs are going to be. So that's something that people should consider. So if they could just clarify the actual amounts.
Thank you. They're checking the numbers.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So on the table right now is merely the moving of Article 5 up the chain to Article 3. Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'm going to call the question. Then we'll actually vote on what is Article 5 and so will be Article 3. So all in favor of moving Article 5 to Article 3, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Fair enough. And let's go to Article 5. Thank you for the person who asked the question. There is a correction, and this is on prior Article 5, and those following along, the new Article 3, with respect to the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund. The balance of the fund as of July 31, 2025 was $423,216. So it was off slightly, but not materially. But thank you for the question. It allowed them to correct that number. So now before us is former Article 5, current Article 3, the $200,000 being placed in the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund. Do I have anybody has any further comments or questions about the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund? If not, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of Article 5, the $200,000, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. It is passed. Now, for those keeping score, we are moving down to what was Article 4 and is now Article 5, and that is the Capital Reserve Roof Fund. And the question on the table is the amendment offered by Dan Wolf that would change the amount from $100,000 to up to $2 million. That's the question on the table. Do we have any further discussion or comment with respect to Dan Wolf's proposed change to what is now Article 5. Yes, sir.
Ken Bartholomew Warner, just a point of order. Does it change the number or does it add two options?
It adds two options. So if we vote in favor of the amendment, what will appear on our ballot in March is one, as are shown on this sheet, except it will now be Article 5 for $100,000, then there will be a second option of up to $2 million. That's what we're voting on. Yes, Dan?
I know when we're talking about the budget, you put in any amendment as a separate article. You vote on the school board budget, you vote on the budget committee article, and any amendment one. On warrant articles that are specific, why would we vote on one or the other? I think, and Barbara and I talk about this all the time, I don't believe, because you're going to divide the community by having two votes.
I understand, Dan. My understanding from Barbara, let her speak as counsel, that that's what the charter requires, but I'll let you speak to it if you wish, Barbara.
Good morning. Article 6 of the charter provides that if you amend the dollar amount of any warrant article, not just the operating budget, both figures go on the ballot. So that's where it comes from. I don't, I've attended this meeting for years, and I don't think we've ever done that. I don't recall any time when any warrant articles other than the operating budget have been amended. Thank you.
You're blazing a new trail, Dan. Yes, sir. Come on up.
It's blazing the trail. Okay, it's Tom Forster again, still New London. Just a clarification question. If we vote for the $2 million today, will it be amendable at the town hall meeting? If we decide at that point, $2 million is an awful lot. And with all due respect, I know we need new roofs. There's a big issue there, so I'm not trying to whittle the number down.
No.
But is there a chance to amend that further at the town hall meeting?
The answer, sir, is no. This is the chance to amend, and whatever we say today goes on the ballot for the final vote in March.
And that's up or down? At the
Up or
town hall,
down vote,
that's up or
that's
down.
correct. And if we vote in favor of Mr. Wolf's amendment today, folks will have a choice. They'll have the school board's initial option of $100,000, and then it'll be either or neither, or up to $2 million. That's what they'll see on the ballot.
So I hate to open a can of worms, but with all due respect, I mean, we need the money, but $2 million is a lot of money in one chunk. So how do we come up, there may be other people who feel the same way. How do we know it should be 2 million, 1.5 million, 1 million? How do we come up with what would be a good process for sorting that out?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have done an analysis of facility needs, and this $2 million amendment is to address the needs that the district is facing.
Okay, but with all due respect, you put the budget together for $100,000, the proposal, and now we get $2 million coming from a well-informed member of the
Yes.
community. So it seems like, I do feel like the process is a little wonky.
John's got to get, you're good.
There it is. We currently have a facilities committee meeting based on a report provided to us, and that facilities committee is coming up with recommendations for the school board. As those recommendations come out in May, the school board will be looking at the dollar amounts that are needed, critical needs, and then desired investments for our district. It will be well in excess of $2 million for roofs.
I get it, I know.
Yes,
I know.
and so this $2 million would potentially be used for a roof, and the school board is going to have to come up with funding options for these facilities projects, and obviously a bond is on the table, so these funds could offset a future bond.
And reduce the amount, or perhaps reduce the amount.
Reduce the amount of a future bond if necessary by the school board. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I still, again, I struggle with the process. I mean, the people here are probably more conservative than I am when it comes to spending money, but
The reason why the recommendation was $100,000, do we need way more than that in there? Yes, we do. The reason why it was $100,000 is because this facilities process is still unfolding, and we were planning on coming to the board potentially for a bond next year and to the taxpayer for that. So that's why we were holding back on that. But again, the $2 million will most certainly be spent on a roof.
no, that's it. Okay,
Thank you for the question. Come on up.
Hi, Jason Teester, Sutton. Thank you, Jamie, for that explanation. I was just going to come up and speak to that. Scott mentioned earlier we have a freight train coming with roofs. An extra 200 million out of the surplus is a prudent way to address this. So I would encourage everyone to vote for this amendment. The other thing I would like to encourage everyone is to look at this assessment. Someone mentioned there was no report. There is a lot of information available on the school board's website. The assessment is available, and we are deliberating how best to move forward with these, to address these concerns as we move forward into the future. So please, if you're concerned, get informed, read the information, it's there, and get involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mag Francis from New London, and I do echo that. I will say, that one of the things that I noticed is that we haven't necessarily been paying the right amount of attention to our trust funds or our reserve funds as perhaps, we should have. Now, on the good news side of this equation is that I think the school board and the MBC are committed to taking reserve funding for building maintenance, for roofs, for all of the things. There are, I think, 5 special reserve funds. I think the board has a plan going forward to make sure, that the target amounts that we have on these funds, in some cases, until this year, hadn't been looked at in 20 years. Looking at those targets, looking at a capital improvement plan, and figuring out how we need to fund more appropriately so we don't have the big train wreck that is coming next year. I also want to take this opportunity to say that this facilities subcommittee B, and I think I have that language correct, thank you, Jamie and Patrick, that is being headed up by Jamie and Patrick, from a board perspective, is an excellent example, of how we engage the expertise and the talent we have in our towns to come together, working with the board and administrative leadership to solve tough problems. I hope we can extend that model to other big problems, that we have in the district, because we do have enormous talent in our towns.
Thank you. Any further comment or question regarding the potential amendment of what is now Article 5 with respect to the Capital Reserve Roof Fund? Yes.
Hi, Derek. Joanne Hinnendale from Warner. I actually sat on the budget committee when Dan proposed all of the capital reserve funds. And we did it because we were hit by the railroad train that came in, and we had to do a huge bond for all the roofs. At that time, I think it was under $2 million total for all of our buildings. And now, of course, it's 25 years later. And so this is to prevent us from having a bond. And we started the capital reserve fund for that in special ed, I think around the same time, I want to say. And just to put a little bit away every year, because at that time our out-of-district placements were through the roof. I think we've got a better system now, but I'm not sure because my kids graduated 25 years ago with Luke.
Thank you very much. All right, any further comment? Yes, Bob, come on up.
Bob Wright, Sutton.
Hey, Bob, can you take a step closer to the mic, please? Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
This is of great concern to not only me, but just about anybody that's breathing. We talk about children and we talk about the buildings. You're not going to have one without the other. We talked about the children have priorities over the buildings. Okay. Without the building, what are you going to do with your students? We have a real problem, but in all honesty, we've exacerbated it. When the voters make a choice in March of 100,000 or 2 million, what do you think they're going to choose? They're not going to be informed. They're not here. And all they see is, I can say 1,900,000, you know, I mean, it's a no-brainer. And the problem that you all face, you are regulators, and you really should be salesmen. That's the sad part, because there's a lot you can say, but with all due respect, it is said in such a way that it's kind of like the government. We're going to take from you, but it's an investment. Well, it's not going to work that way. We have been a little upset when the budget committee and the school board have come out with the same figure every year. They used to be different, but now they're the same. What happens? Well, then the voters vote for one or they vote for the other. They don't care. And so it doesn't matter because you're going to get the same figure anyway. I think that's a little cynical. And now with this, as we're opening this up, I think it's going to come back to haunt us. When the regional started back in the day, they cut a lot of corners, particularly in the buildings. They paid a little bit for the cement and the tile and the driveways and the walkways, and all of a sudden they could come later that there were a lot more problems. Now this was back in the Linehan era. This was a long time ago. This is when my kids were going to this school, and my children are now 60. What is going to happen is people are going to try to forestall as long as they can. Because, for example, I may not be here next year. I may be, I may be room temperature. So I'm going to forestall these things as much as I possibly can. But that doesn't help you. And with all due respect, you guys are both your best friends and your own worst enemy, because you're going to have to sell this, and you're going to have to sell this, and you're not going to be really in a position of authority.
Thank you, Bob. We hope to see you next year. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Marion Freeman from Sutton, and I've attended most of the Facilities Committee review meetings, and they're fantastic, and I just want to commend all of the local resources who are participating on that committee and the detailed review. I actually read the document. I think it's about 650 pages. It's quite detailed, and I think the request to add the surplus funds to the roof fund is a good thing in the long term. I don't know in the short term, but I agree from what I've read and everything I've seen in the meetings that the freight train is going to be large. And I don't know that enough people are aware of what the details are of that, so I think we're encouraging people to go and inform themselves. And I agree with the previous speaker, if you don't have buildings, there's nowhere to put the kids. So it's an important thing to consider. Thanks.
Thank you. Sir, come on up.
The next meeting is February 4th at Sutton Central School. Tours at 5:30 and the meeting starts at 6:30, and we also Zoom it.
Nice plug.
I'm Matt Essenwein from Warner. Just two things. One, I was looking over what was Article 4? The balance of the fund. So in 2000, the voters established the Capital Reserve Fund. The balance of the fund as of this past July is approximately $1,104.212. I'm hoping that's a typo. So just for, it's
1 million. It is
right. But for legal purposes, we might want to just fix that. That said, though, I am speaking in favor of the amendment because I was doing the math, and I don't recall throughout the years how many times this article has been, how many times we've added to this fund. How much we've added each year. In 2000, it was established. 26 years later, well, 25 years later, the fund is 1.1 million. So if we've been level funding this at 100,000 for the last 25 years, we should have $2.25 million in this fund. We have half of that. I don't know why, but we have half of what we were expecting to have when we started this in 2000. We got a lot of catching up to do. And so I think this amendment, using surplus funds up to $2 million, is going to help us catch up because, again, and I agree, the freight train is, you can see the smoke, and we do need to catch up. Not sure why we are where we are, but we need to do everything we can to jump aboard before the train hits.
Thank you. Sir, come on up.
Good morning.
Let us know your name,
Charles Kelsey, New London resident. I chair the board, the budget committee for the town, and my first year doing so, and will admit that I am still learning. And I think some of the comments that I've heard speak to presumptive knowledge. And what I mean by that is there are many members, people here today who have intimate knowledge of the budget process, intimate knowledge of funding, appropriations, bonded debt versus capital reserves, and it can really get you pretty confused. I think it would be helpful to consider in the wording of the articles where the last the sentence ends with such amounts to be funded from unassigned fund balance, surplus funds remaining on hand as of June 30th. I would recommend amending the wording to precede remaining with the word is it a preposition? My English teacher should correct me. If remaining. Because I think that there is confusion to the voter when you get to the point of the town meeting that these are monies that are being allocated automatically, and they're not. It's only if. It's prioritizing the spending out of the surplus if it exists. If it doesn't exist, there is no expenditure.
To your comment, sir, I asked Attorney Lohman that question. The reason the language is as it is it's what is recommended by the State Department of Revenue Administration, and they are very careful about what they require us to say in each of the warrant articles. So it's a derivative of what the state tells us to do.
So noted, and I wonder if there isn't that value in having some narrative that would explain that's outside of the actual article. So when people are voting, they're not comparing 100,000 to 2 million, saying in their mind, oh, these people are just frivolously adding money that is not budgeted.
No, I appreciate your view, and the difficulty is the way the process is set up.
I understand.
Today's meeting is the day for that, and then it just shows up on the ballot based on what happens today. I hear you. It's frankly, in my view, it's a weakness in the way the system is set up to have a lack of an explanation.
Well,
But that's
again,
what today's for.
the presumptive knowledge
Thank
comment.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, come on up.
David Bates, Warner. As we're talking about the freight train, since we've determined to dramatically describe it that way, that may hit us next March, I wanted to point out that the state government draws its funds from taxes on wealthy corporations. The state government zeroed out its building aid to school districts like ours. We are going to be alone in funding whatever happens next year. That was to make the state's obligations look like they're being conservatively managed. The state Wednesday voted to advance a further tax cut on multinational corporations. If you're concerned about next March, the time to show up to vote is this November.
Thank you. Sir.
So we have an amendment.
Sir, let us know your name again.
James
Sorry.
Gaffney.
Yes.
Hasn't changed. Excuse me. We're talking about an amendment to a warrant article.
Correct.
Such that, looking to change the language such that people are voting either yes or no on the $100,000 to yes on the $100,000, yes on the $2 million, or no to none of the above. You have to include a no.
That's my understanding, yes.
So what would the actual language of this be? Would it be one warrant article that would say, are you in favor of $100,000, yes or no, to such and such fund? With a second warrant article saying, are you in favor of $2 million to such and such fund, yes or no? Or some third language. You can't remove people's ability to say no to none of the above.
Go ahead. You want to explain anything? Go for it.
Yeah. The way the charter reads, you can't put that yes or no option. What you can do, obviously, if nobody votes in favor of either of these figures, then the money does not go in. But the charter provides that money articles, when they are amended, can be the amended figure and the original figure both appear on the ballot on appropriation articles, but there's no other figure. What you can do is amend at the deliberative meeting. You can amend a warrant article to 0, which would mean that the original figure would go on the ballot and 0 would go on the ballot.
The reason I'm asking this is because every ballot warrant article that we voted on, similar to this in the past, including last year's, it's a yes or a no. The voters have an option to vote no. And as I understand what you're proposing is, voters will not be afforded the option to say no.
That's correct. And we've been to the Supreme Court twice on that issue when the charter, in the early years of the charter was challenged on that basis, that the voters don't get to vote no. The voters do get to vote no at the deliberative meeting, this meeting, by amending the article to 0. And the Supreme Court said that is sufficient because it's all one meeting, even though it's split into 2 parts. So right now you have an article that proposes $100,000. If the amendment to change it to $2 million is not what you want, you can always make a motion to amend it again to 0, so that 0 will be one of the figures.
I'm not speaking to the merits of the amendment. I'm raising this question so that everybody that is voting today on the amendment understands what the actual question will be if they vote in favor of the amendment.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks. Yes, Dan.
A couple of comments, and I'd like to then call the question.
Thank you.
It is up to us, those people up there, and all of you here, if you favor this $2 million thing, we have to go out and lobby for it. It's time to get off our duff and ask for what we want. Don't come back next year because we didn't bring out the vote. This goes back to Charlie Forsberg, who always said that there was never a no option. Well, Barbara just answered that. And to Mr. Wright, who came forward, it is up to us. So I hope you've heard my words. I'll be putting some letters to the editor. I hope you people do. And if you believe in this $2 million, do something about it. I call the question.
Thank you, Dan. And I would like to call the question. I know you had an opportunity to speak earlier. If you don't mind, I'd like to call the question and the vote. All right. We are a question on the table. What we are voting for is, do we agree to amend what is now Article 5, in your packet is Article 4, to change the number being appropriated up to $2 million if there is, in fact, a surplus. And just to bring us all back to the beginning, the way this would work, if there is a surplus, the surplus would first go to, now in our order, the Special Education Trust Fund. Then if there's still money left over, It would then go to the school buildings maintenance trust fund, and then if there's still money over, then it would land here in this reserve, capital reserve roof fund. So that is the question, $2 million. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are now moving to Article 6, and I understand that Kristen Schultz will speak to Article 6.
Thank you. Article 6, to see if the school district will vote to designate Kearsarge High School as an open enrollment in school to allow 30 students from outside the Kearsarge Regional School District to attend Kearsarge Regional High School as provided in RSA 194D2 and 3, and limit the percentage of Kearsarge Regional School District students who may attend open enrollment schools located outside the Kearsarge Regional District to 0. The school board explanation states, the state's new open enrollment law, RSA 194D, allows students to transfer between districts unless local limits are set by voter action. This article is intended to protect and insulate the Kearsarge Regional School District from any unintended impacts of the new law by clearly defining how Kearsarge will participate. The article designates only Kearsarge Regional High School as an open enrollment receiving school, allowing the district to accept a limited number of students, outside students when space permits, while setting the percentage of Kearsarge students allowed to enroll in other districts at 0. This preserves enrollment and budget stability, protects staffing and programming continuity, and ensures that the decisions about open enrollment remain under the control of Kearsarge voters rather than defaulting to broader state authority. While New Hampshire has long offered various forms of school choice, the current open enrollment framework under RSA 194D is new and is being implemented for the first time. What is new is that the law creates a statewide right to enroll across district lines and directly tie student movement to district funding. When a student leaves a district under open enrollment, the state education funding associated with that student leaves immediately, and even though most district costs, staffing, transportation, buildings, and utilities do not decrease. Because this law is new and untested, districts across the state are acting now to set clear local limits. For Kearsarge, even a small number of outbound transfers could result in significant financial loss without corresponding cost savings, creating pressure on programs, staffing, and class sizes. By defining participation now, the district is insulating itself from unintended financial and operational impacts while preserving all existing school choice options and keeping decisions under local voter control. And with that school board explanation, Madam Chair, I do have an additional statement, if I may be permitted.
Sure.
Thank you. Setting outgoing open enrollment at 0 preserves fiscal stability, protects educational quality, ensures that your tax dollars are used efficiently and transparently for the benefit of our district students. For each student who leaves the district through open enrollment, at least 80%, and it could be higher, but at least 80% of our per pupil funding is transferred to the receiving schools without any corresponding reduction in the district's operating costs. For those of you who are concerned about the budget, that is approximately $24,000 per student would leave this district. When Kearsarge's per pupil funding exceeds that of the receiving district, the structure results in a net financial gain for the receiving schools paid by you, the taxpayer. Unrestricted and unpredictable open enrollment policies are harmful to districts and communities because they explicitly remove resources from the students and programs those funds were raised to support. Concord and the court know this, and to be clear, both statutory and case law permit districts to set outgoing enrollment caps at 0. Lastly, all claims, including claims made by our state senators in this district, that our district is against educational choice are categorically false. This district has and continues to offer a broad range of outgoing options, including homeschooling, charter schools, education freedom accounts, dual and concurrent enrollment opportunities, best interest placements, tuition contracts, and special education placements outside the district. So a vote to approve this warrant article is a vote to maintain the fiscal stability of our district and the quality of education that this district deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open this up to questions and comment. We'll start with you and then bring up Mr. Gaffney. Just a reminder for everyone, this warrant article is different from every other one we discussed today because it does not involve a budget item. The vote we make today is the final vote. You will not see Article 6 on your ballot in March. The decision we make today is the final one. There is no further discussion after today. Sir.
Thank you. Ken Bartholomew Warner. Thank you to the school board for bringing this warrant article forward. To add to Kristen's list, there's also the Concord Regional Technical Center that offers outside enrollment. You know, I have a real problem with my tax dollars going to fund other districts where I don't have a vote. And for that reason, and because the funding from the state is unconstitutional, as determined by the New Hampshire Supreme Court this past summer, they're putting the cart in front of the horse here. They're creating an open enrollment situation where they're moving around state funds, where the court has said they are already inadequately funding the districts in the state for what the Constitution requires. So we have to take some action to protect ourselves. I think this is a pro-taxpayer warrant article, and I fully support it.
Thank you. Sir.
James Gaffney from Warner. I'm trying to understand the actual cost here. You're suggesting that up to 30 people, is that per year? Is that over what period of time?
This is for this, actually, that would be you.
Yeah.
Superintendent Fortin.
The warrant designates Kearsarge High School as an open enrollment school. And if there was space, we would take 30 students from outside of the district per school year.
Per school year?
Per school year.
So this is what, 4-year school?
Yes.
That could be 120 students that we would only get up to 80% of the funding for.
No, it would just be 30 as of right now. So it's 30.
So we're going to do it for 1 year?
120. It'd be 120 payments, but it would only be 30 students in that space.
At any given time, there would only be 30 students?
As of right now, it would be no more than 30 kids from outside the school district in the high school.
Okay. The second question, the follow-up question is about money. So we'd only be getting up to maybe 80% of what their own native original school district allocated.
If we got a kid from Hopkinton, we would get 80% of what Hopkinton's per pupil cost would be.
And I think we're on the high side of the area. So we're missing 20% of the funding for each of these 30 students that's going to come out of our pockets. What about transportation?
No. Transportation is a responsibility of the sending families.
Okay.
The district is not responsible for that.
Could somebody make a motion to change this from 30 to 0?
Yes.
Just want to confirm. Thank you.
So if I can speak to that, we have up to 30 students depending on availability without increasing our costs. And so it will be a net value to our district. This up to 30 students is to ensure that we do not have to increase staffing or add teachers, and that they can be absorbed into the educational structure of our school without any additional cost.
Yes, ma'am.
Mag Francis, New London. I am firmly opposed to the policy as it is written. I do understand the rationale for, excuse me, I've been dealing with a virus. I do understand the rationale for needing an open enrollment policy, but this one, as written, is openly cynical. For every single reason that was given why we don't want kids to leave the school district, okay, we are willing to poach 30 kids from a neighboring community, giving them all those same financial instability and hardship. I could go on, but I'm not going to, okay? I am going to propose an amendment. I don't know if, can I do that now or should I?
You can
Okay.
propose.
I want to propose an amendment that we change Article 6 so that we keep the 0 people. Let me back up. I believe we need more time to sort this out. I was at the board meeting when this came up. There was not a lot of time spent talking about this, but in all fairness, there wasn't enough time to be able to really thoroughly look at this and get a warrant article on this agenda for today. So I believe we do need to buy ourselves time. We need to figure out, okay, how all this plays out. The truth is, Concord's already talking about closing this loophole, so some of this is, I don't know, perfunctory. But I would like to make an amendment to change the number of students that we allow to come into our open enrollment Kearsarge High School to 1. It protects the district from all of the things that we said we were worried about without hurting, okay, our neighbors. And if we think, okay, that allowing 30 kids in doesn't have the same negative impact on our neighbors as us allowing 30 people to leave, then we're just being hypocritical. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll speak to that, please.
Hold on a minute, we need a second first. So the
sorry.
motion, hold on a second. The question is, do we have a second to an amendment to change Article 6 to allow 1 as opposed to 30 students from being able to come into the school? Do I have a second? Mr. Gaffney seconds. Now we're discussing the potential amendment to Article 6. Yes.
So I appreciate those concerns for our neighboring districts. And to be clear, this district did not write this law, and we are going to navigate this law in a way that best supports our taxpayers and our students. I believe that if other schools are concerned about the same things we are with sending people to outgoing schools, that it is their responsibility to create policies that protect their districts as they see fit. Having said that, there are many districts that do choose to send their students outside placement for a number of reasons, and it may be very beneficial for those districts, including our neighboring districts, to have the opportunity to send up to 30 students to our district. Also, to be clear, our taxpayers are very concerned about the financial burdens of education, and this board is doing everything in its power to make sure that we navigate laws, good, bad, or indifferent, in a way that is Kearsarge-centric. And I believe that's what we were voted to do, to protect our district taxpayers and quality of education. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you wish to speak. Let me have one person from the audience, and we'll come back to you. Come on up.
Can I yield to Allison?
All right. He's deferring to you, Allison. You're up.
Is this on? Yes. I just wanted to make a comment. We all know that right now there's a loophole in this law, and that's why we are able to set limits for who comes in and who goes out. There's a lot of talk in Concord that that loophole will disappear eventually, and at which time we will obviously comply with whatever the state tells us we have to do. The benefit of, I suppose you could say, the loophole is that we have time to figure it out, because it hasn't been figured out at the state level. Like, how exactly is a district going to pay another district? Like, literally, how are they going to pay them? Are you going to go send a check in the mail? Things like that have not been worked out yet. So we are trying to protect ourselves on one hand. On the other hand, allowing, maybe it doesn't have to be 30. We picked the number 30 because that's the amount that we see we could add to the high school without having to add more teachers, more classes. That's a number that would fit in there. Whether it's 30, whether it's 20, whatever the number is, we want to see, by allowing some kids in, what it's like to allow kids from other districts to come in and how the process works. We're not doing it as a revenue generator. Of course, maybe you could generate some revenue, but we kind of want to know what's going to happen. If other kids come to our district, how are the logistics going to work? So that is why we chose to allow some kids in. I see both sides of the argument. I'm just giving an explanation of how we came up with that number, because we want to test it out, because eventually probably we are all going to be required to do it on both sides of the coin, and we just wanted to see what would happen. But I understand what everybody's saying, and that's all I wanted to say.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Come on up.
David Bates, Warner. I just wanted to make the observation that there are very deep philosophical issues involved in all the issues about how education are funded and where kids can go. Before we spend a lot of time telling each other our deep feelings about it, this is a thrown together temporary policy to meet a last minute exigency. The state legislature is also going to do things that are going to determine the outcome. So whatever we talk about here is only going to last for a certain small period of time. We don't need to go to the mattresses fighting each other. I would encourage everyone to just move along.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hafey from Wilmette, New Hampshire, obviously.
Can you speak up and say your name again? Sorry.
My name's Elizabeth Hafey from Wilmette.
Thank you.
And I know that we're kind of a lot focusing on the financial aspects of this, but my daughter asked me to speak to her personal experience as regards to why she wants to transfer out and have an option for open enrollment. And while the school board, Mr. Fortney, Mr. Bissett have assisted us in the past with it, none of what Ms. Schultz presented today was presented as an option for us. So we weren't aware of it until just now. So if you guys can afford me an opportunity, I'd like to read you what we've prepared. My daughter and I relocated back to this area from the Midwest in December of 2022, and we moved from a city where the crime rate was high, the teenage murder rate was rising, and having been present at a school shooting at a football game of the high school she was to attend the following year. I made the decision to move us here because I believed this would be a safer environment and the benefits would outweigh the challenges of starting over. What I did not anticipate was how difficult this transition would be for my daughter, and I'd like to provide a snapshot of her experience. In the first 6 months of being here, her experience was stained with things like being approached repetitively, starting the first day of school, being asked for a pass to use a racial slur. Starting the first day, tucking her into bed one night with the blankets pulled up to her chin, her voice mouse-like and shaking. She tells me that on the school bus, a boy had shown her a video of 2 white men hanging a black girl in front of a Confederate flag. I was horrified and immediately burst into tears. She's been called racial slurs by peers and friends when they get mad, had museum artifacts pointed out to her on a field trip with comments that they were her father because they were black. And unfortunately, this behavior has not stopped. The use of racial slurs has continued over the last 2 years, including as recently as this past fall, when some of her athletic peers used racial slurs towards black players of another team on the field during a game. One of those recipients was her boyfriend. My daughter carries herself with confidence that we hope all of our kids have at this age. And just like any other kids her age, they're making mistakes and growing and learning. She is more often than not labeled as misunderstood. She's labeled as harsh, aggressive, and intimidating by some teachers and a coach. This is unfair to her and who she is, and I have and continue to repeatedly remind her we only control the way we deliver information, not the way they receive it. If she doesn't feel If she doesn't feel safe, heard, or accepted as a member of this community for who she is, and open enrollment offers her an opportunity to attend a school where she feels supported and understood, I struggle to understand how we can deny her that option. This is the same district that previously voted to allow a girl to play on the sports team that aligned with her identity, recognizing the importance of belonging and inclusion, not forgetting that she was directly affected by that decision as well. Despite the continued outside harassment, we supported it. I ask you all to consider why that same principle would not apply here. How can we allow students from outside the district to transfer in while refusing our own students the ability to transfer out when their needs are not being met? If my daughter's going to be a senior in high school next year, so this is her last opportunity. And basically, I'm asking for the amount of students that are allowed to leave the district to be raised from 0. 5, 7, what a number that would be appropriate. I think that 0 is an unreasonable number when we're taking in 30 people. So for that reason, I would ask that they vote no for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your comments. Jen.
Jen Alfred-Teaster, Sutton. For the purposes of the article, I just wanted to reinforce that, to make a statement that this is an untested sort of law. So I wanted to draw that to, just like, sorry, I was moved by what she just said. So give me a second, I'm sorry. I just wanted to remind folks that this is similar to what Mr. Bates had stated, that this is untested, and so to be measured in the approach, I, as a Sutton resident, just very much appreciate the measured approach to this. I also agree with the increasing to more than 0 for a student to leave the district if they so feel they need to. Without that margin, I think it sort of is contradictory to the fact that we would accept students but not allow them to leave. So, and I don't know enough about the budget to know what the reasonable number would be, and I would trust your judgment to set that number, but I certainly don't trust it to be set at 0. Also, just for reiterating that, because this is new and untested, being measured, like I don't know what how the 30 number was sort of established. So if there's a little clarity about that number, that would be great. And I apologize coming ignorant and not knowing, because that's really on me. But if you wouldn't mind, for the purposes of the audience, explaining to us the total, the 30 number.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Right now, the reason for the 30, one, again, was trying to pick really to choose a number that was, we knew we could accept at the high school. We knew there wasn't going to be any concern. It was going to have an impact on additional needed infrastructure, again, as we looked at billing. And a secondary reason why that number 30 is currently we have 30 students that are going to Concord Tech. And as one of the enrollment, as Ms. Bartholomew had mentioned, any of those students that are full-time, there's a law came on the books this year that if any of those students that are full-time enrolled at Concord Tech within a program have the ability to attend Concord High School all day. And the district is required to pay for it without any say. So the families have those kind of choices. So that was where really the biggest piece is that 30 was we have 30 kids potentially that are already leaving because of tech school and that could be in Concord all day at the additional cost. And so then that's where that 30 is a potential offset if we look at that. And just as a side, we're one of the first districts to be able to deliberate and to vote on this topic. This came from the Prospect Mountain versus Pittsfield Supreme Court case. And just so we're clear, Prospect Mountain is 100% open enrollment at their high school and 0% of their students leaving. A number of school districts, including Sunapee, is putting warrant language where they are opening up. Muskoma, Pembroke is going to be actively recruiting students from other districts that are opening up full 100% as many kids that want to come and setting their sending number at 0. So for us, it was trying to say, how do we do a measured look at this, understand what the processes are behind it, not removing the rights or responsibilities of anything that is currently on the law, and give us the ability to have a smart, measured decision that is fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Go ahead.
There it goes. The budget was finalized by the MBC and the school board this fall to present to you. The line item for open enrollment for students leaving is $1. That's why we have a zero there. We don't have the funds budgeted for open enrollment this year. This came up after the fact. We didn't have time to change that, so that's why that number is zero. I just wanted to answer that question because there's been 2 questions about why it's zero. We have $1 in that line item.
Thank you. Sir.
Greg Wilchrin from Newberry. I just have a simple question. If we don't do something, what is our vulnerability?
Thank you for the question.
If the way the statute is written, if we don't vote, if there's no vote taken at all, we automatically become open enrollment because that was where the case came from. The Pittsfield versus Prospect Mountain. Pittsfield had an area agreement with another school district, basically meaning they purchase seats. An unlimited number. Yeah, we become wide open for that. So literally, it would set the open enrollment students leaving at 100% of our kids could leave and go to another school district if we don't take a vote on this.
Thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
James Gaffney, that rationale would have been super helpful to have included in what was presented to the public. It would have been great to hear. I think in the future, when something like this comes up, you should probably try to include the rationale behind the board being for or against something.
Yeah, that was, and part of the reason too, just the late addition is that most area superintendents had talked, we've obviously had conversations around this case for a long time, and most people were not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden then the Pittsfield versus Prospect Mountain case comes in, and people start panicking a little bit and going, we're going to have to make a decision. Our concern is we're the first annual deliberative session meeting in the state. Other districts, other superintendents have the ability to wait to see what the legislation is going to do or what other people are going to go. So we had to make a decision to either we're all in or all out, and what is those numbers from the beginning. I appreciate that. I definitely take that to heart. We can do a better job communicating.
But to that point, what you're saying is that we have to have a policy. We don't have to have a policy to have 1 or 10 or 30. Either way, we just have to vote on a policy.
Yes, we have to have something in place.
So to that point, if I go off the numbers that was provided by the committee, it cost us $29,614 per student every year in the infrastructure and the teachers that we have. If we only get 80% of the money from the student coming in, that's a deficit of $710,000, $736 that we have not budgeted for. We're not getting full payment for the kids that would be proposed to be coming in, and that's why at this point in time I'd vote in favor of adopting a policy, but the policy as amended to just have 1 person.
Thank you for the comment. Did you want to respond? No. Come on up, Bob. And step close to that mic. That's what it's there for.
Thank you for the instructions. You can check out any time, but you can never leave. I mean, anybody who remembers Hotel California, that's the rule. And it looks like there's been a lot of thought that has gone into this, but almost like you're forced to, because if we don't act now, the anvil's going to fall. I don't know if that's such a great idea until we can get some more information. I don't know. If we could keep maybe a smaller amount. One of the things I thought was very interesting was pointed out that staffing, transportation, buildings, and utilities do not increase. But if that's true, they also do not increase. So you're getting discounts for substantial getting people. So obviously you're already floating the 20 to 30%. So the 80% is a wash. And it's just a question of the size of classrooms, the ability for the teachers to be able to instruct, the time elements, how the transportation element. I don't know. But for what it is worth, for the very fact that you guys are considering this, I think is a merit, and I thank you for that.
One thing I can't say.
Yep, go ahead.
Bob, just to your point, and also to Mr. Yaftey's point, when we have an agreement with Croydon to be an anchor school for them to come in, and when you think about it, in this room, we have all the lights on. If 20 more people come in here, it doesn't cost us anymore to light this room or to heat it. So anything we get, so that money coming in is considered a revenue. So the math gets a little funny when we look at the per pupil expenditure. And we can, and I will, Mr. Gaffney, I'll give you my email address so we can talk that in better length. But when we look at some of those things, that is a revenue piece. So another reason is picking that 30, like you look at Croydon, we partnered with Croydon because their bubbles match up to, their bubble of big kids match up to our bubble of fewer kids. So it kind of fills that gap. So we're not adding 1 or 2 kids into a classroom, doesn't increase our cost. We have a teacher in that room, so it becomes a revenue generating piece at some point. Yeah, it's not 100% of what our mathematical numbers look like, but something, when it doesn't increase our costs, is better than nothing.
Thank you for the clarification. Come on up.
My name's Jennifer Knopf. I'm from Sutton. I have a question about if the number was to change for outgoing students, just a hypothetical. Because in a past placement, I was familiar with funding following the student. And let's say that the district did allow students to leave, and that funding is allocated somewhere else for that school year, and families are now responsible for that transportation, and partway through the year, that family says, you know what, I just can't handle this anymore. I'm sending my kid back to my home school because I'm assuming that the parent still has the right to do that.
Yes.
That money's not going to come back here. And I think that that's something we need to keep in mind. I've been an educator for 29 years, and there's many transient families, especially some that like to move from district to district to district, especially if they're moving out of anger or for a reason, for certain reasons. But that money's not going to come back to us. They may make a decision, a snap decision, saying, I'm sending my kid elsewhere. That money's gone. For whatever reason, they can no longer transport their kid. They make a decision, I'm coming back to my home school. That kid is no longer funded in our district. And people might need to realize that if that is going to be the situation. So I just wanted to know, is that the situation?
We're not really 100% sure on all the billing structures. So is it very possible? Absolutely. And so, but it doesn't, a family would have the ability to move back. You're paying taxes still within that district. So looking at current law, it's very possible so that we would miss out on those funding opportunities. Understand too that we do an October 1st ADM count, which is really where the state takes a look at our money. So I think a lot of it would be, how do you pay things out? Are you paying per semester? Are you paying, 3 times a year? It all kind of depends on what those agreements would be. The other part of it too is any district, like if we don't do anything and it opens up, we are then having to do some kind of billing agreement with every district that a child goes to, which also presents cost as well. So it's very, very possible that that can be the case.
Thank you.
Thanks for the comment.
Can I say something?
Yes. And then you, ma'am.
So I had the opportunity to have a meeting with the Commissioner of Education alongside other school board members across the state. We had talked about open enrollment. The commissioner and the department also has no idea exactly how they would implement payments. As you've heard today, it's untested, and even the department is unaware of how to move forward. This is another example of a piece of state legislation that was pushed through without thought of implementation and how it's going to affect. So when you're seeing the article, the way it's written, and the way that we're trying to safeguard our district, it's because we really don't know what's going to happen next. So, and even the department isn't aware of what exactly is going to happen next. And because we have our deliberative session in January, while the others have it in March, other districts across the state also have it set at 0 to leave. And they're all voting on their warrant articles within their school boards and within their groups now. And many of them have also already passed that 0 going out situation. So I just wanted to add a little bit of clarity there, and then again, amplify the fact that this is another piece of legislation that was put forth by state legislators that we are expected to have to abide by, and they have thought 0 through how we are actually going to implement this and how it's going to be able to keep our public schools alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Kelly Bridgewater from Bradford. I just wanted to speak to that other woman's story. Totally empathize on that. I grew up in a district where I went to a school that was very violent, and at a young age, I felt like I had to ask my parents' permission if it was okay for me to fight someone, which sounds ridiculous as a child, but to defend yourself if you had to even in like the most ridiculous reasons of someone feeling like you're glaring at them. So I understand the safety part. Pardon me. So I understand how that girl feels, feeling like she doesn't have a space to be at school. And I think that's just as important. While I understand the financial aspect 1,000%, I feel like there might be like some verbiage as to giving someone a reason, like a safety reason, and of some kind that they could leave the school district, because that's essentially what my parents did. They sent me to a private school that I know was a lot for us monetarily to do, but they did not want me in that school district any longer because it was just going to be worse. And it wasn't a well-funded school district, and so I get it, but I just wanted to put that out there if there were some verbiage or the legal aspect of it all. But I just feel like safety and feeling safe and not having, racial slurs at you, that's ridiculous. And my school was more minority than white. So it was I hate to say the reverse racism because I don't think that's a thing, but all of that went on as well at a young age. So I just wanted to put that out there, that if there was a way for someone to do that, I think they should. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, please. Thank you. This board and this district is very concerned about student experience and safety. We have mechanisms in place for out-of-district placements, and something of this nature, while I would never speak to individual circumstances or cases, there are manifest hardship placements that have a process through the district. And so we do allow and we do have mechanisms in place to address all sorts of student needs and safety concerns. So this open enrollment may seem like the only option, but it's not, and these options have been in place for years. And I will leave it at that, as to not step into individual cases. Thank you.
Yes.
Just one other thing to add to that too. This policy has to be reevaluated annually at the will of the voters. So what we're talking about today is for 1 year.
As currently written.
Thank you.
As currently written, but we have an amendment. But yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Marion Freeman from Sutton. Just an observation about this meeting process as a whole. I've really enjoyed it. It's an excellent conversation to get input from the constituents as well as answers from the board and the MVC. And I would like to encourage more of that instead of once a year. I have attended most of the school board meetings this past year. I have learned a lot, and I really appreciate that. But there is no back and forth at those sessions, and it's difficult to have a dialogue. I know those meetings take up a lot of time, and you want to keep them to a certain time frame. But clearly, by some of the statements of people in this room, knowing what I know from having attended most of those meetings, there's a gap in information. And so I would like to encourage the district to consider a way to engage the public more through various avenues. So I really appreciate seeing people coming here and commenting and asking questions. I have one question about the amendment. With respect to the students that go to Concord Regional Tech, you mentioned, James, that there was $1 in the budget for students going out of the district. I think
For open enrollment. That's not specific to all the other options for outside of district placement. That's for the open enrollment only.
Right. So my question is, for the 30 students that currently go to Concord Tech, are they aware that they have the option to choose to go there all day, which would then impact your budget tremendously, would it not, if they were all to say, we'd all like to go here all day?
I can't speak to what those students know or don't.
Yeah.
The one thing I can tell you is Concord and Concord Tech is actively telling people those things. That part I know, but what those students know or don't, and if they decided to make that change, that was a law that came on the books. The open enrollment piece by statute, we have to have an open enrollment line item. We don't know what to fund it, so we would have to find that money and transfer that money from somewhere else in the budget to make that payment.
If you had all 30 say, see you bye, that would be huge.
It's a weird setup because you're paying for, there's different funding mechanisms, but it would be additional money that we haven't budgeted going to the Concord School District.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, sir.
So, James Gaffney again, sorry. I know there's a tendency to criticize everything that comes out of Concord. But, forgive my sarcasm, but this bill was written so badly that it gave the school district a choice. You can do it or you not do it. It's simple as that. So, how badly written is it really at the end of the day? We have a choice to administer or not administer. That's the first thing. Second thing is, there were no calculations done on what it's going to, even remotely, what it's going to cost us to administer this. So if we vote to adopt this in a manner that it allows 30 students come in from up to 30 school districts, that's a lot of work for one or more people from an administrative perspective alone to figure out the billing, how to get the money, how to handle it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is why, to say that one student coming in doesn't cost us anything because we're already paying for the building, I think is not an accurate statement. It affects teacher-to-student ratios, albeit it may not be dramatic, but you don't know what you're getting. Are you getting a problem child? Are you getting an A student? Or are you just getting a kid that doesn't fit in the school district that he's coming from, right? That's a truth. I mean, that really, as we've all heard, is a real thing. I'd like to move the question on the amendment.
Thank you. With that, the question has been moved. We will call the question on the amendment. Sorry, gentlemen. So we have on the table for our vote a potential amendment to Article 6, which would change the open enrollment school to allow one student as opposed to 30, with the rest remaining the same. That is the question on the table. I'm going to call a vote. All in favor of the amendment, say yay. Yay. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The nays have it. We are now back to discussing the original Article 6, which would allow 30 students from outside the district. That's the question on the table. Do you two gentlemen wish to speak to that?
So I wanted to mention a couple of things. Matt Madison from Warner. Previous gentleman was just talking about lawmaking in Concord, and honestly, half the questions that we collectively have been asking and wondering could have been answered had the law actually been a better written law. We have a law that has that leaves questions unanswered. There are loopholes. There are inaccuracies. There's all this stuff in this law that we are trying to navigate. And so if you think the law is confusing and it's open-ended and there are these questions, you're wondering about this law, contact your state representatives because there's a very high likelihood that they voted for it. So, we're struggling to do what we can with this law that has been handed to us. I think some people are still trying to have a really understanding math. We have X amount of dollars that we spend on our budget. X amount of dollars. This is how much we spend. If we have 30 students come in and they give us 80% of whatever they're normally spending, that's 80% of their pupil times 30 if we have 30. We're not going to have 30. I can't imagine we're going to have one student from 30 different districts. We're going to have 30 students. We're not going to have one student from 30 different districts all coming here. That's I don't want to say preposterous, but highly unlikely. But we're trying to make do with this law, navigate it. I certainly don't mind if we want to allow people to go out. There are people, like a couple of the folks who've spoken, who feel the need to leave. But we don't know the impact of that. And so I'm kind of on the fence about that, about allowing 5 to go out, because we don't know how to administer it. We literally don't know how to do it. As good an idea as it is. So I'm all about school choice. Go ahead and go to a different district if you want, but we don't know how to do that. And so until we do, I can't blame the school board for sticking to 0. Again, I'm kind of open to things, but I'm giving the school board credit for trying to navigate a very, very particularly cumbersome law that still needs to be revised.
Thank you for your comment. Sir.
David Bates, Warner. Philosophically, I would like all kids in public schools to be able to go to any public school they want. That's based on the interest of the children. It's an adult problem figuring out how you fund it. That's not, unfortunately, the reality that we're in. My wife is tired of hearing about my views on this. I would say to try to get a sense of the speakers in the room and the direction of the conversation, I'd like to bear with my neighbors who are more concerned about costs, while at the same time honoring the testimony we've gotten. I would like to offer an amendment to change it to 5 outgoing students and 15 incoming students.
Give me that amendment one more time, please.
An amendment to have 5 outgoing students and 15 incoming students.
Gotcha. So the amendment would be to allow 15 students to leave and, 5 students to leave, 15 to come in. Yeah. Do I have a second on that motion? I have 2. Ma'am, what's your name? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We do have a second, so I'll now move to discussion. The new amendment for Article 6 is to have open enrollment school that would allow 15 students from outside Kearsarge to attend, while also allowing 5 students to leave the high school and go to other districts. That's the question on the table. Anybody wish to speak to it? Yes, ma'am.
I 100% support that amendment, and if I had more courage, I would have put that amendment on the table myself. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Derek, I just have a question. Question. Is that amendment 15 into Kearsarge Regional High School, as we have 30 written, but the 0 that we have is out of Kearsarge School District, so is that 5 out across the district, or is that limited to Kearsarge Regional High School?
That's a fair question. I didn't appreciate the distinction. Gentleman who made the motion, we should make sure we clarify if that's the way you wanted to read or not. Where did he go? David.
So 5 out school district wide, 15 in district wide, or just to the 15 and 5 out?
Just the high school.
The language would be the same, just different numbers. That's the understanding. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I'm glad you asked it.
Andrew Pinard, Bradford. I understand that this is a difficult philosophical discussion, a difficult practical discussion, a challenging discussion about poor behavior in a district that shouldn't be allowed to occur. And I know that our elected representatives have heard that message and will move forward with making sure that those are reconciled. My concern is if you put 5 or 7 or whatever, that you're now tasking administrators to set limits and establish ratios and put whoever is there first is the one to go. And then when you get to number 6, then you say no. And that's putting neighbor against neighbor. It's putting administrator against students. And I think it's very problematic completely. And while I'm incredibly sympathetic about the notion that people may have the opportunity to move, the challenge is that the way it's been handled in the past is if you move, you move. And I'm not talking about just moving your student from Bradford to Concord. I'm talking about you pick up and move. And I don't like to encourage that. I would rather take care of the problem at hand so that we have safe, welcoming, tolerant communities. But I also recognize that that is not the world we are seeing in our local and our state representatives who are using hate-filled speech every day at the State House. That I have representatives here in the House today who can validate that statement. We need to be better. We need to do better. But I'm concerned that with this amendment of only allowing 5, it sets up more problems than are worth. And reducing from 30 to 15 is not mathematically a good choice, because if we can coordinate 30 in, that's 30 that are bringing some revenue in as opposed to none. So I'm not in favor of this amendment.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Kristen Pelletier-Ruggiero from New London. So I have a couple questions, I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this or not. How do we choose who comes and who goes? Is this a lottery system?
So the vote, this is a weird one because typically the board deals with policy. This is kind of a policy thing. The statute is very clear that the legislative body has to authorize the board to create the procedures, which is why this vote has to happen. So you basically, you as the voting public vote to allow the board, the district to say, this building is an open enrollment. Then we have to go back to the books and then work on policy, procedures, how somebody gets in, how somebody were to leave, whatever the case may be. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions, but we can't move forward with any of that stuff until we've been authorized by the legislative body, which is the folks in this room.
Okay. So just as a general statement, there are multiple states in our country that have open enrollment districts. I'm not a huge fan of them for the fact that even recently in Ohio specifically, there are school districts that are being, and I am a special education mom, my son is special needs, but they're being so inundated with special needs infusions because their districts take better care of those children. And this is why we moved here. We physically left where we were and we moved here for the school district. But with these open enrollments, specifically, you can look this up, they are being so inundated with special needs children that they're having to close enrollments specifically to children with IEPs, and now you're opening yourself up to discrimination issues. So as much as I think this needs a lot more discussion, I also think that this is way too broad and open to be really making any decisions in this state of the law until it's further broken down and explained. Does that make sense?
Yeah, understand too, the sending district is responsible for special education costs. So that's above and beyond the 80% part. The other piece of it is as we look at it, part of the things that we would look at that 30 would be what specialized programs we have. Like we have a gateway program at our high school that is for some of our more profound special education kids. What is our space capacity there? So it wouldn't be like we'd have to set what those caps would be within those open
I understand,
spaces.
okay, they're gonna pay for that, but we have to find the paras, we have to give the teachers the supports to be administering those IEPs in classrooms. So as much as we want to say that this isn't going to cost us anything, there is the potential for this to cost us.
Which is why we will set, if once authorized, we will then go through some of those programs and say how many of our students can we accept without any additional needs in a special education program. So we may only say we could take 30 students, looking at the original piece, we would take 30 at the high school, but of those applicants, we can only have 5 spaces that have gateway needs.
Okay.
So we have the ability, it's not just a wide open, all 30 kids would come in, because we still have the ability, the board would have the ability to set those limits for within certain programs.
And we can do that without opening ourselves up to
Discrimination.
legal issues.
It's already in the statute,
Okay.
and what they say, the Ed 306 laws, which the board's gonna have to revisit class sizes and things like that, because that's part of the pieces that we have to say out more consistently with statute is what spacing we have. As it was like an early law that was coming in. I think that was a precursor for being able to move to open enrollment, is what our spacing was in grade levels. So we have the ability to control those mechanisms without a discrimination suit.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification, because I also don't want it impacting our special needs students who are here, paying taxes here, living here, came here.
No, we're being very mindful to not do anything that would be at the detriment of our current students.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Come on.
Eileen Kelly from Bradford, also your state rep from this district. I want you all to know that I voted against this to begin with. I'm not for this. Karen Ebel, state rep from New London, also voted against this. So I want you to know that, make that clear. My understanding of this article is that it will protect the district from the mess that Concord has made. And by voting for this, it offers us some protection that if we don't have a limit, we may be forced to take an unlimited number, is my understanding.
We basically become open both ways, but for sure obviously the biggest concern is money going out.
Right.
But if you don't take any action, then you are susceptible to whatever.
And there's more stuff coming down, as State Rep Tom Schamberg knows. There's more stuff coming this year that's going to make this even more messier. So I think this is a protection for the district here. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. And while we have our next speaker coming up, I want to provide a clarification that our counsel has just provided me that'll be helpful for the discussion. In addition to the confusing nature of the statute, if that number that we allow to leave is something different than 0, it has to be represented in the form of a percentage of our student body as opposed to a number. They've done the math. And according to the math, apparently, if the number was 5, as is proposed, that would be equivalent to 0.3% of the student body. So if we continue, as we continue discussion on this, at the end I'm going to ask for a friendly amendment to change it so the number of students that would be allowed to come in are 15, and the percentage of the number of students based on our student body would be 0.3%. Is that fair? Thank you. And sorry for the confusion. We're trying to make sure we follow the law with the amendment. Go ahead, sir.
Devil is always in the details. I just sat down and reread 194D. This is specifically to Section 2 and Section 3. And while philosophically I agree that it's probably good to have a policy, there's nothing in the law that was passed that says that if you don't do this, you're going to be declared an open enrollment school.
Yeah. Case law, New Hampshire Supreme Court, Pittsfield versus Prospect Mountain, ruled that because Pittsfield is not an open enrollment school district and Prospect Mountain is, students wanted to attend Prospect Mountain from Pittsfield. Pittsfield went to the State Board of Education to say we shouldn't be paying, we have an area agreement. The state board ruled for the families that Pittsfield had to pay. Pittsfield appealed that to the New Hampshire, all the way up to the New Hampshire Supreme Court. The New Hampshire Supreme Court ruled because Pittsfield did not take a stance on sending or receiving, then they did not have a say in that matter. So while the law doesn't say
So
that.
this is a case law.
Case law and
Okay.
precedent is why we have to make this move.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Lindsay Lund. I'm from New London, and I just want to make sure, as long as everybody's in the room, this article notwithstanding, that some of these shared testimonies today will be addressed immediately and appropriately, please.
I would always encourage people that have concerns to contact my office so we can look into things.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other? All right, let's call the question. Let me read the amendment so we're all on the same page since we have this percentage issue that's popped up. As amended, we are voting on the following for Article 6 to see if the school district will vote to designate Kearsarge High School as an open enrollment school to allow 15 students from outside the Kearsarge Regional School District to attend Kearsarge Regional High School as provided in RSA 194-D:2 and :3, and limit the percentage of Kearsarge Regional School District students who may attend open enrollment schools located outside the Kearsarge Regional School District to 0.3%, which is roughly equivalent to 5. That's the question. I'm calling it now. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no.
No.
The noes have it, and we are back to Article 6 prior to amendment. Anyone wish to discuss Article 6 as originally drafted? This is your last chance. Come on up.
Okay. Tom Forster again from New London. I just wanted to clarify Kristen's comment earlier, because we've covered a lot of ground since you made your comment about other mechanisms for leaving the school district. So what I heard is that for students under unique circumstances, special circumstances like were described, there are mechanisms for leaving the school district, and if you pass if you accept this warrant article, those would not be restricted or limited.
Correct. And those mechanisms are not just for special circumstances. Those are for educational choice as well. There are some that are for special circumstances and other mechanisms just for general school choice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any last comments before we proceed? I'm going to call the vote on Article 6 as originally recommended. We are voting on Article 6 as it appears in your materials. All in favor of Article 6 as initially proposed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, and Article 6 has passed. With that, we have yes, whoever raised it, where are you? Thank you.
It was published in the deliberative session that a vote was needed, but that did not necessarily indicate a ballot vote. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you for the question. I think all of you today, you had some very good questions. You raised some good concerns. That's what this meeting is for. Appreciate it. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. We're adjourned, folks.
I don't know. That's a high.